¿A dónde está papi? 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 ¿A dónde está papi?
Welcome to the Tuesday stream. I hope everyone's having an awesome Tuesday. I almost said Tuesday morning, but no, Tuesday. Happy Tuesday indeed. Howdy, howdy. Tuesday is all gone for me. Well, I just finished work, so Tuesday is basically finished for me.
That we had John Kirby come back. He's going to talk about the specifics of that operation and the extension also of
counterterrorism capability. What we did this past weekend is a perfect, clean example of what that capability looks like. Now on to Taiwan. As you have all seen, the Speaker of the House, Nancy Pelosi, arrived in Taiwan earlier this morning, East Coast time. As we have said, the Speaker has the right to visit Taiwan. And the Speaker of the House has visited Taiwan before without incident, as have many members of Congress over the years, including this year. This trip was the Speaker's decision, and Congress is an independent branch of government. You all know that.
Okay, so apparently they had a press briefing. They had a press briefing because Nancy Pelosi decided to go to Taiwan or whatnot, and there was some concerns, yada yada yada. And yeah, there's a live press briefing going on. I expect Nancy in Taiwan is an issue for you. I don't know. Maybe it depends on how much. It depends on why she was there, and whether or not things escalate, which I don't think they are. So I don't know. I think the main issue here is that the possibility for insider trading, because I think the whole point, I'll have to see what exactly was on her agenda, but I think I have questions regarding stocks, Nvidia specifically, but we'll see. Let me go to that here, as this actually just happened. So let me kick this off here. How much of it we can actually get through. Dustin, with a tier 1 sub for 12 months. Accidentally got another year older. Well, happy sub birthday. Happy sub birthday. I appreciate that.
We're obviously monitoring her travel, as we always do for members of Congress, and we've taken all appropriate measures to ensure the safety of her travel throughout the region. Let me be clear. The Speaker's visit is totally consistent with our long-standing One China policy. We've been very clear that nothing has changed about our One China policy, which is guided, of course, by the Taiwan Relations Act, 3 joint U.S. PRC communiques, and the 6 assurances. We've said that we oppose any unilateral changes to the status quo from either side. We've said we do not support Taiwan independence. And we said, as I said again yesterday, that we expect cross-strait differences to be resolved by peaceful means. And we have communicated this directly to the PRC at the highest levels, including in last week's call between President Biden and President Xi. The National Security Advisor, Secretaries of State and Defense, and the Chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff have also made this very clear to Beijing in a half a dozen recent high-level conversations. Now, we've seen a number of announcements from the PRC in just the last several hours that are, unfortunately, right in line with what we had anticipated and what we talked about yesterday. Now, there's no reason, as I said yesterday, for Beijing to turn this visit, which is consistent with long-standing U.S. policy, into some sort of crisis. or use it as a pretext to increase aggressiveness and military activity in or around the Taiwan Strait, now or beyond her travel. And again, as I made clear yesterday, before the Speaker's travel was confirmed by her, China has positioned itself to take further steps, and we expect that they will continue to react over a longer-term horizon. I couldn't give you a date certain of what that horizon looks like, but we certainly would expect them to react even beyond her trip, including announcing additional large-scale live-fire exercises. Of course, they've already started doing some of that today, flying across the median line. We've seen press reports of them doing that today, and using economic coercion. It's exactly in line with the playbook that we anticipated and talked to you about yesterday. The United States will not seek and does not want a crisis. We are prepared to manage what Beijing chooses to do. At the same time, we will not engage in saber rattling. We will continue to operate in the seas and the skies of the Western Pacific as we have done for decades. We will continue to support Taiwan, defend a free and open Indo-Pacific, and seek to maintain communication with Beijing. We will keep doing what we are doing, which is supporting cross-strait peace and stability. And then just real quick, lastly, Karine hinted at this at the top. The President welcomes today's announcement of an extension of the truce in the Yemen conflict. The truce in Yemen, of course, was a key agenda item during the President's visit to Saudi Arabia, where he met with the King and the Crown Prince, and with leaders from across the region. We're grateful for the leadership of Saudi Arabia throughout this truce process, as well as for the Sultan and leaders of Oman, who have also played an important role throughout. Now, this truce is now going on 5 months, has brought a period of unprecedented calm in Yemen, saving thousands of lives and bringing tangible relief for countless Yemenis. 5 months, which may not sound like a lot, but when you're talking about 7 years of war and thousands of Yemeni lives, it counts for a lot. And now we have a chance to extend this another 2 months. So we urge the Yemeni parties to seize this opportunity to work constructively under UN auspices to reach an inclusive, comprehensive agreement that paves the way for a durable, Yemeni-led resolution to the conflict. Advancing the peace process is going to require courage and dedication from all sides. The United States will remain committed and engaged in efforts to advance peace in Yemen and to bring relief to the Yemeni people. And with that, take some questions.
Thank you. Thank you. John, how concerned is the administration right now that the Afghanistan has become a safe haven for terrorists?
I think if you were to ask some members of Al-Qaeda, ask them how safe they feel in Afghanistan right now. I think we proved to a fare thee well this weekend that it isn't a safe haven, and it isn't going to be going forward.
What will the repercussions be for the Taliban harboring al-Zawahiri?
I'm not going to telegraph moves and decisions that we might make. Certainly not going to get ahead of anything at this point. I would just make 2 points. One,
Are these all just questions?
the strike itself shows how serious we are about accountability. Shows how serious we are.
And then secondary interests or not.
Look, the president doesn't typically comment on congressional travel. As I said,
There was an interesting
in the
And to create the project.
reason, just no justification whatsoever for the tensions to amp up any more than they already are. Okay, thanks everybody. Thank you.
Thanks for the time. Really appreciate it. Thank you.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks for the time, John. Appreciate it. Okay. Now for the boring part of the news. Okay, so today HHS released a new report showing that the lowest number of Americans in history are uninsured. Today, just 8%. This progress did not happen by accident. More than 35 million Americans are enrolled in Affordable Care Act related coverage. The highest total on record. That includes 21 million people who are enrolled in ACA's expansion of Medicaid, and 5 million more people have gained health insurance coverage since the beginning of the Biden-Harris administration, in large part because of the improvements to the ACA in the American Rescue Plan. In order to keep this progress moving forward, Congress should pass the Inflation Reduction Act, which will lock in an average of $800 per year savings in health insurance premiums for 13 million Americans and prevent 3 million Americans from becoming uninsured.
Or lay the groundwork for a universal healthcare system. Jesus Christ.
Today, President Biden, as you all saw for yourselves earlier, joined Governor Gretchen Whitmer, members of the Michigan congressional delegation, and business and labor leaders to mark the signing of the governor's executive direction to implement the CHIPS and Science Act of 2022. This is just the first example of the federal-state partnership that will launch across the country as states leverage its once-in-a-century investment in their own states to bring in new projects and to create the project jobs. And
Memo for the record, littering, and I'm not sure what that is. What that's a reference to. I hope you're well. I'm hanging in there. I'm doing alright.
project jobs. We will have, I know folks are wondering and asking, but we will have an announcement on the official signing of CHIPS and Science Act soon, which
Oh,
will
Super
lower the cost,
Troopers?
as you all know. You've
Never
all
seen it,
heard
gonna
us
be
say,
honest.
everyday goods, creating high-paying manufacturing jobs across the country, and strengthen our national security and U.S. leadership in the industries of the future. Lastly, a growing body, I'm sure you all saw, of economic experts have analyzed the Inflation Reduction Act and agree that it will lower cost, reduce inflation, and address a range of important and long-standing economic challenges. 126 leading economists, including 7 Nobel Prize winners, former Treasury secretaries, and a CBO director, and former CEA chairs wrote to Congress this morning endorsing the Inflation Reduction Act and calling for its passage. They wrote that these investments, and I quote, will fight inflation and lower costs for American families while setting the stage for strong and stable and broadly shared long-term economic growth, end quote. They note this package will, again, I quote, quickly and noticeably bring down healthcare costs for families and would be more than fully paid for, end quote. They also underline that the revenue raised to finance these investments would come exclusively from wealthy individuals and corporations. These are major priorities for the American people, including tax fairness, closing the tax loophole, as you
Oh yeah. So, in other words, that's not gonna happen.
House Speaker Nancy Pelosi's plan to visit
Oh, my
Taiwan has
goodness.
created a stir in both Beijing and Washington.
Stop. No,
Taiwan
not
has
this.
created a stir in both Beijing.
I clicked on my own stream. Jesus.
that we had John Kirby come back. He's going to talk about the specifics of that operation, and that we work that is than all of us, and then to cut costs for the middle class. That's more than fully paid for, end quote. They also underline that the revenue raised to finance these investments would come exclusively from wealthy individuals and corporations. These are major priorities for the American people, including tax fairness, closing the tax loophole, as you heard us say, and where the president and congressional Democrats have a verified plan to fight inflation, congressional Republicans, on the other hand, are standing against these investments because they are more about protecting tax welfare for those who game the system than they do about curbing inflation. They are screaming bloody murder because this bill repeals sweetheart deals that let hedge fund managers pay for less income tax than the average American, or stop multi-billion-dollar corporations from exploiting loopholes to pay literally nothing, or stops shielding wealthy tax cheats taking advantage of everyone in this room. As you all
Wow.
know, this year, congressional Republican like Rick Scott proposing raising taxes on about 100 million middle-class Americans. 100 million middle-class Americans. Americans have a clear choice between these agendas and the values behind them. Do we attack inflation with the Inflation Reduction Act, which we know works or will work? Or do we extend the pain of inflation like congressional Republicans are arguing for because they think it's more important to let the wealthiest Americans and big corporations take advantage than all of us, and then to cut costs for the middle class? That's what we're left here. Those are the choices that we have to make. Okay, with that, Zeke?
Thanks, Ben. I'm getting good work from your staff. You might have a bit of a hard on the 15-20 minutes.
Yep.
But there's 2 questions on the drone strike in Afghanistan, following up on some of John's answers earlier. Does the president believe that the strike against al-Zawahiri disrupted an active plot against the United States? And also,
He was able to do. We have laid. Look at the name of the legislation, Inflation Reduction Act. It's going to do that. We have support of economists who say it's going to do that as well. And so we are grateful for this piece of legislation. And,
Okay, never mind. I thought that was something else. Alright, so just to piggyback off what she was saying, the Inflation Reduction Act would lead to $1,800 in savings for average households. Sweeping climate and healthcare legislation unveiled by Democrats last week would lead to significant cuts in energy costs for American households, according to a new analysis. A report by nonprofit group Rewiring America found that the tax incentives included as part of the $369 billion dedicated to climate initiatives in the Inflation Reduction Act would save the average household $1,800 per year on energy bills. It It is a market tilting level of investment. Ari Matusiak, the group's co-founder and CEO who was involved in crafting this bill, told Yahoo Finance. The beneficiaries of this measure in the long term are going to be all of us on the planet. In the short term, it's going to be Americans at their kitchen tables realizing savings on a month-to-month basis. The new measure sets out to accelerate the transition to renewable energy and dramatically reduce the country's greenhouse gas emissions through a slew of tax incentives aimed at reducing the cost of electrification. It's possible that it does this. Just not sure. While those cost savings are doled out among more than 100 different programs, Matusiak said that the biggest reduction are likely to come from rebate and credit programs that cushion the cost difference between electric appliances and cars and those that rely on fossil fuels. Yeah, I think that's a good idea. Here are some of the biggest cost savings. A program dubbed the High Efficiency Electric Home Rebate Act set aside $4.5 billion in direct rebates for low and moderate income households that install new efficient electric appliances. Nice. Under the proposed rebate framework, a low-income household would receive a rebate of up to $8,000 for a new heat pump, $840 for an electric stove or electric dryer, $2,500 for updated electrical wiring, among other rebates. Matusiak said those incentives will enable 1 million households to go electric. The challenge is that these machines are new and they're not ubiquitous in the market yet, so they have not yet achieved industrial scale, which means that their prices off the showroom floor are higher than the fossil fuel machines so that they will be replacing. So the investments in the Inflation Reduction Act are directly going at the bridge, the delta, going at bridging the delta. Okay, there we go. Between the cost of an off the showroom fossil fuel machine versus a clean electric machine. The climate legislation also sets aside new money for $7,500 federal vehicle tax, expected to give major car makers like Tesla and GM an added lift along with drivers. The credit for new electric vehicles is seen as an extension of an existing program. The Clean Vehicle Credit Program comes with additional conditions, including a requirement that eligible cars be built with materials sourced and processed in a country that the U.S. has free trade agreement with. It also requires the battery to use a large number of components manufactured in North America. France has its driest weather in July ever on record. I'm not surprised. Dan Simpson rating with a party of 5. Welcome, everybody. Welcome, welcome. Folks, if you have 5 seconds over here, go check out twitch.tv/idansinson. They do phenomenal work and are allegedly there is a accusation that they are professional Fortnite players. Okay, they're doing the Fortnites. So no, I'm kidding, but they do play Fortnite. So go check them out. All right, do the follows, do the supports. Twitch.tv/idansimpson. Phenomenal human being. Rad Left Dad, thank you for the follow. Appreciate that. Yeah, pro gamer status. Exactly. A true leftist gamer. Howdy, howdy. In addition, the legislation sets aside a $4,000 tax credit for used cars for the first time. The income threshold would be capped at $300,000 in adjusted gross income for joint filers or $150,000 for individual filers. Credit would be capped at an income level of $75,000 and $150,000 for used cars. The incentive comes as drivers increasingly look towards electric alternatives in the face of historically high gas prices. While the national average for a gallon of gasoline fell to $4.19 on Tuesday, the cost to drive an EV averages out to $1. Wow. $1.06 a gallon. Yeah. That is just wild. 41% of inflation that consumers are experiencing are because their energy bills directly are going up at the pump and at their kitchen table. And electrifying the machines that we use in our day-to-day lives structures that inflation out of our lives forever. So it's not just about whether you're going to get to that 1800 number this year, but it's whether you are going to reduce the amount of money you spend on energy year over year for the next 20 years. That is a good point. We got a dub today, so we're a pro Fortnite squad. Nice. Nice. I wonder how they calculate Tesla gallons. No clue. Maybe by how much it costs to fuel it up. So maybe they calculate it by like, so let's say your Tesla, I don't know, costs like $20 a month in electricity, and it gets you 200 miles. I guess they can make a calculation as to how that works. I'm making up the numbers, but I'm saying the concept of how they would calculate it, I assume, would be how much does it cost in electricity by how many miles it gets you, and you can kind of compare, I assume. BPCL, how's it going? Howdy, howdy. Economists remain divided on the impact of the legislation on inflation. Former Treasury Secretary Larry Summers, who has been critical of the impact the Biden administration's pandemic stimulus has had on inflation, has publicly supported the bill, saying it would fight inflation by reducing the budget deficit significantly over time. Yeah, but it's not always about the budget deficit, okay? The budget deficit is a political football. You're raising more than $2 in revenue for every dollar you spend. Meanwhile, a study by the Penn Wharton budget model estimated that the legislation would very slightly increase inflation until 2024 before pulling back. The report released on Friday indicated low confidence that the legislation will have any impact on inflation. Well, I guess the good part is that it would encourage people to get off things that run off, excuse me, that run off fossil fuels, I guess. Are we staying up for election results tonight? What election is up tonight? I think there was one, I want to say Kansas? I don't know. There's small, like, there's random elections going on right now. Okay, there's primaries for Michigan, Missouri, and Arizona. How far do we know before the results happen? Just to be clear, this is still far short of what we must do, and ultimately will make what we will be forced to do much, much more expensive. Yes, that's a good point. Kansas has a first vote on a constitutional amendment on abortion today. Yes, I heard about that one. I think I talked about it yesterday. Because Kansas and whoever made this constitution, or whoever made that amendment, had the 200D move to put bodily autonomy in their constitution. They actually protect the right to bodily autonomy in the Kansas Constitution. So, yeah. Kansas Supreme Court has ruled that abortions are protected by Kansas state constitution. Correct, because bodily autonomy is literally written in there. And now they realize what a mistake that was, and they're trying to get it out. Like, think about that as a concept, right? So, the thing that's stopping the Republicans from enacting abortion restrictions or trying to outlaw abortions in is the fact that Kansas, in their state constitution, has bodily autonomy protected in their constitution. So, like, that kind of makes my argument, and I'm sure many people's arguments, about the whole concept of the abortion discussion, the abortion debate, is all about bodily autonomy. That's what it is. So yes, today would give the state the ability to pass abortion rules, and they've already tried to pass some hardcore shit like their neighbors. I live in Missouri, and I care way more about Kansas right now. Although Lucas Kunze did get a Bernie endorsement and was losing according to the polls, but primary polls are pretty spotty. Yeah, I'm going to assume that, like, I don't know, you just gotta wait for the results. I don't know how far we'll last here. But yeah, imagine like this as a concept where your constitution protects the right to bodily autonomy, and then in order for you to pass abortion restrictions, you have to get rid of that, or you have to bypass that. Unreal. Polls close at 7 in Kansas. How long do we have to wait depends on how close it is. What's the time in Kansas? So less than 2 hours. Yep, Central Time. So 4:44 right now. Okay, well, we might be able to catch that. Actually, we might actually be able to see that end result. That's something I want to see. Specifically when it comes to that amendment. I might power through for that one. The Committee for Responsible Federal Budget said the new measure amounted to the largest deficit reduction bills since 2011, calling it a welcome improvement with inflation at a 40-year high. In the near term, people are going to see their costs go down because lower energy costs, and because health premiums aren't going to rise. That's not actually Mark Goldwine, a CRFB Senior Director of Policy, said on Yahoo Finance. That's not actually anti-inflationary in itself, but it can be anti-inflationary to the extent that those things are paid for, so not putting more money into the economy, and to the extent that they help with expectation. They would just take it to the Supreme Court and have it quashed. I don't think that works that way. So I don't see that happening. I don't see that happening. So if the citizens of Kansas decide that they are not going to amend their constitution and leave bodily autonomy as a right in their constitution, then that means Republicans and conservatives will not be able to implement abortion restrictions. So, yeah. If you're in Kansas right now and you're watching this stream, put the stream on mobile and head on over to the polls, okay? You've got like 2 hours. Anyway, so what the press secretary was talking about was this. All right, so switching gears to do another update on what happened to the burn pits bill, which Republicans celebrated its defeat on the floor. Agreed to a deal on this one. Probably after seeing just how bad the backlash was, and seeing just how bad it looked, as they celebrated essentially what would essentially be the death of veterans. Because they refused to give the funds necessary to give them health care. Senate Republicans have reached an agreement to pass legislation expanding benefits to veterans who are suffering from illnesses due to toxic exposures after they blocked the bill last week and sparked outrage from the veteran community and comedian Jon Stewart. We expect to have an agreement on the PACT Act with amendments, Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer said. I believe it will pass this evening. So this Tuesday evening, we will see exactly if it happens or not. The state Supreme Court will save us from other Supreme Courts, hopefully. Not even. Not even. Schumer said that the Senate will vote on 3 amendments to the bill, with 60 votes needed to pass those bills. The upper chamber will then move to finally pass the bill. The deal will allow the upper chamber to vote on Finland and Sweden joining NATO on Friday. The agreement comes as Republicans have been trying to find a way to end a standoff over the bill after blocking the measure by a vote of 55 to 42 last Wednesday on the premise of a lie, by the way. On the premise of a lie. They said that the reason why they didn't want this to pass was because, well, there was some, shenanigans that the Democrats were planning when it comes to the budget nomenclature. They said that, oh no, this is discretionary versus mandatory, and they're just gonna create like a slush fund for other stuff, and which is not true. Not true at all. All this based on premises of lies. The deal will allow... Okay, yeah, the agreement comes as, yes, they blocked it over some BS. 25 Republicans who initially voted to advance the bill changed their votes. Veterans have been camped outside the Capitol since last Thursday in a bid to pressure senators to change their minds on the measure. The upper chamber passed the bill by a vote of 84 to 14 in June, and the House last month passed the bill by 342 to 88. Republicans have said they're not opposed to the original substance of the bill, but rather a budgetary gimmick that would designate $400 billion spent by the Department of Veterans Affairs as mandatory spending. This spending would not be subject to annual appropriations process like discretionary spending. Yeah, everything that the government does is falls under these two things: mandatory and discretionary, right? This is all just bullshit, is what I'm trying to say. Earlier on Tuesday, Representative Jerry Moran, the top Republican on the Senate Veterans Affairs Committee, told reporters that Senator Pat Toomey and Senator Rand Paul have been offered amendments on the bill, but 60 votes are still needed to pass them. We'll see how Republicans react when it comes down to it. If there were any substantive reason they're against this, which there isn't, yeah, because it was based on a lie, what they're claiming the problem is that they won't be able to cancel the funding next time they're in power. Yeah. Yeah, because they don't actually care about veterans. They don't actually care. Not a brilliant cover. Nah, they just don't care. So we will see what happens on that one. Justice Department sues Idaho over abortion ban in the first post-Roe litigation. The Department of Justice filed a lawsuit on Tuesday arguing that Idaho's near-total abortion ban violates federal law, the Biden administration's first legal action to protect abortion access since the Supreme Court overturned Roe v. Wade in late June. In making the announcement at DOJ headquarters, Attorney General Merrick Garland told reporters that Idaho ban violates a federal law that requires medical providers to offer emergency medical treatment. Under the Emergency Medical Treatment and Labor Act, every hospital in the U.S. that receives Medicare funds must provide necessary stabilizing treatment to patients who arrive at their emergency departments while experiencing a medical emergency. The 17-page complaint reads, in some circumstances, the necessary medical treatment is an abortion. This may be the case, for example, when a woman is undergoing a miscarriage that threatens a septic infection or hemorrhage, or suffering from severe preeclampsia. Idaho's law, which is set to take an effect on August 25th, will make it a felony to perform an abortion in all but extremely narrow circumstances. Jesus. The complaint said, including when doctors provide emergency medical treatment required by federal law. The suit seeks a declaratory judgment stating that Idaho's law violates the Constitution's Supremacy Clause and is preempted and conflicts with federal law. It also seeks a judgment that Idaho may not initiate a prosecution against or attempt to revoke the professional license of any medical provider who performs an abortion authorized under federal law. The department also calls for a preliminary and permanent injunction against the state of Idaho to prohibit enforcement of its abortion ban when it comes into conflict with federal law. In the days since the Dobbs decision, there have been widespread reports of delays and denial of treatment to pregnant women exercising medical emergencies. That is true. That is true. Today, the Justice Department message is clear. It does not matter what state a hospital subject to EMTALA operates in. If a patient comes into the emergency room with a medical emergency, jeopardizing the patient's life or health, the hospital must provide necessary treatment to stabilize the patient. This includes abortion, and that is the necessary treatment. I agree. Unfortunately, Republicans don't care about any of this. They don't care that people are going to die as a result of this. They don't care that people are going to suffer from this. In fact, that's probably an intended outcome. The real answer to this would be a federal codification of the right to an abortion, because at the end of the day, fundamentally, it is a right to bodily autonomy. And everyone has a right to bodily autonomy. That being said, bipartisan compromise bill would restore abortion rights. Restore? Not sure that's the word I would use, but okie dokie. A bipartisan group of senators is pushing compromise legislation to restore abortion access in the wake of the Supreme Court decision to overturn Roe v. Wade, a long-shot effort to put a majority of the Senate on the record opposing that decision. While the bill is not expected to pass, it is unlikely to even get a vote. It's wild to me. The legislation introduced by 2 Republicans and 2 Democrats on Monday is intended to send a signal to the state legislatures and the public that a majority of the Senate supports codifying Roe, even if they can't get the necessary 60 votes to pass it in a 50-50 Senate. We still think there's utility in showing that there's a bipartisan majority that would want to codify Roe, even if the bill doesn't have enough votes. This said Democratic Senator Tim Kaine of Virginia, who introduced the legislation with Democratic Senators Kyrsten Sinema, of course, and Republican Representatives Susan Collin and Lisa Murkowski. The legislation would prohibit most state regulations that prevent abortion access before fetal viability, generally considered to be about 24 weeks. It would allow state restrictions after that point, as long as the mother's life is protected. It would also protect access to contraception, an issue after Justice Clarence Thomas suggested in a concurring opinion to the decision overturning Roe that decisions guaranteeing access to contraception and other rights may need to be revisited. I can't believe Sinema would have this idea. I think she would believe in this strategy the least. Yeah, well, here we are. Maybe because she knows it's not going to pass, and it's a virtue signal, essentially. Essentially, what we're looking at is basically a virtue signal, because they know it's not going to pass. Because Democrats are too unwilling to do what's necessary. Unwilling to do what's necessary. If this came to a vote, it would certainly mean the end of Ron Johnson. Maple Leaf Dragon Overtime Blues? Are you doing overtime right now? Because if the Democrats really wanted to bring the heat on, they would just push for a exception to the filibuster and just do it, right? I mean, like, out of all the things that you can, stretch and you can push for filibuster reform or outright getting rid of it or carve exceptions, I think the right to bodily autonomy would be one of them, right? Along with, like, the right to, marry whoever you want to marry, the right to access to contraceptions and whatnot. You would think that these would be qualifying as perfect circumstances to say, you know what, we need to carve some exceptions here for the filibuster. Like, rights like these aren't up for debate, right? Like, rights like these aren't up for negotiation. But that's just me. I just finished the right to ice cream in the mall. True. Echo Ruster Dragon, how's it going? Because, I mean, if you have somebody like Mitch McConnell who has absolutely no problems creating exceptions to the filibuster to get what he wants, and in fact did create exceptions to the filibuster so he can ram through justices. I mean, out of all the things, we would need we would need all 50 Democratic senators to vote for it. I think that's easier for codifying, like, abortion access. I think that would be a possibility. I think that would actually be possible. Cinema's the biggest obstacle to that happening, and also the same person pushing this half measure. Therein lies the irony. Yep, I agree. I'm just saying. I'm just saying what they could do, right? Theoretically, if the Democratic Party was interested in, I don't know, doing something, this would be the path. Every action for the last 2 years has shown that she believes no one cares about how senators vote. Yeah, well, it's time to start caring because it's not going to look good in in November and 2024. It's not going to look good. Shifting to some good memes. She might flip hard when it's her re-election coming up, and if she's the 50th vote to get all kind of progressive stuff passed, I'm still going to do everything I can to primary her. Yeah, that would be the appropriate plan. 100%. That would be the appropriate avenue to take if you have that. We're not doing 6 more years of this, no matter what happens in between. That's a good point. All right, doing this story for the memes. The irony. Embryos can be listed as dependents on tax return. Georgia rules. It looks like they are really going all the way with this thing, huh? They're truly going they're truly going all in on the idea that a fetus is a person. Can anybody, just based off this headline, can anybody tell me what the problem is here? No, if some of the elections turn the wrong way, we'll have a whole new batch of crazy for 6 years. Yep. What about the carpool lane usage? That story is from Texas. We'll see what happens with that. Maybe Texas Department of Transportation is going to have to update some things there since we're going all in on this idea. Well, Georgia definitely doesn't rule. Not politically. There is a ton of beam-based policies being discussed in red states. Lots of Republicans saying, let's talk about child support from conception. Instead of admitting that they're full of crap. This seems like a hassle, but they can do it, I guess. Yeah, just one tiny problem. What do you do with miscarriages? How do you square that circle? So the same thing goes for like if you if you're gonna say that you need to start paying child support from the moment of conception, great, cool, very principled. Just one little question: what happens if there's a miscarriage? Does the person who paid child support get all that money back, or how does this work? What about the tax credits? How does that work? Is the state of Georgia just going to be handing out, ironically, free money, free tax credits, I guess? And then a miscarriage happens, and then what? do they ask for that money back? How do they know? The state of Georgia is going to be like broke. Because like imagine, so oh man, so let's say I have a child, yes? Well, clearly they think that an embryo is exactly the same as a human baby, the person. So I get my tax credit. There's a miscarriage. And then, well, what if the person gets pregnant again? Do I get 2 tax credits? Do I get 2 tax credits? Well, a miscarriage would end up being a wrongful death lawsuit against the mother. Yeah, I've heard that argument too. These folks think it's a baby they're paying to take care of up until the time of its unfortunate demise. So they get paid all the time they were eating for 2. I guess it just doesn't make sense. Taxpayers in the state will be able to claim tax exemption for any unborn child with a detectable human heartbeat. Georgia taxpayers can now list embryos as dependents on their tax returns. In a news release on Monday, Georgia's Department of Revenue said it would begin to recognize any unborn child with a detectable heartbeat as eligible for an individual income tax dependent exemption. You know, like, this is what I don't understand. Like, so what happens when you do the miscarriage, and what happens if there are multiple of these things? Do you get one for each? These people didn't really think this one through, did they? This means people crossing state lines for abortions will be investigated by the tax people as well as the crazies, which means they will absolutely be caught because those people live on a level of competence that is off limits to the right to life lobby. That's going to be exactly the conversation they're having in this committee, right? Oh, you mean like this is on purpose, like to increase the chances of you catching people who get abortions? Is that what this is? It would make sense if that's the angle. Then it makes sense. But like, for tax purposes, this makes no damn sense. The announcement follows after the Supreme Court's ruling that overturns Roe v. Wade, ruling that established a nationwide right to an abortion nearly 50 years earlier. The lower federal appellate court has also decided on July 20th to let Georgia law banning most abortions in the state to take effect. Nice. Good memes. This is what happens when Republicans win elections, folks. Officials added that taxpayers filing returns from July 20 onward can claim a deduction of up to $3,000 for any fetus whose heartbeat could be detected. That may occur as early as 6 weeks of gestation, but that's not really a heartbeat necessary. Okay, whatever. Biology aside, before most women even know they're pregnant. This hurts. taxpayers must be ready to provide relevant medical records or other supporting documentation if requested by the Revenue Department. Holy yikes. Legal analysts and advocates for abortion rights greeted the announcement with dismay and skepticism. Anthony Michael Creus, a Georgia State University law professor and political scientist, tweeted that some of the pregnancies detected within 6 weeks of gestation result in natural miscarriages, which could lead the Georgia's Treasury handing out a lot of cash for pregnancies that would never come to term. Yeah, I mean, like, that, it didn't take, it didn't take me having a law degree and a professor at Georgia State University to kind of, like, poke holes and ask these questions, right? Like, so, I mean, I thought Republicans were always complaining about giving away, quote, free money, and now here they are doing the exact, oh man, it's just wild to me. Unfreaking believable. Every accusation is just a confession, folks. No, I don't think they had a single thought before submitting it, but they can work out rules for it. True. I can detect a heartbeat in my wrist. Can I have a tax break? Maybe. Move to Georgia and try it. And given how high the percentage of pregnancies that result in natural miscarriages, the Treasury is going to be handing out a lot of cash for pregnancies that would never come to term. This might be good public health policy, though it may be a lot more money than anticipated. Lauren Grow-Wargo, manager of Stacey Abrams' campaign for Georgia governor, tweeted, "So what happens when you claim your fetus as a dependent and then miscarry later in the pregnancy? You get investigated for both tax fraud and an illegal abortion? Oh, shoot. Wait. How does that happen? Oh, shoot. Wait. Is that the goal? Jesus. Is that the goal? Is the goal just to implement more ways of punishing folks? Is that the end game? To just, like, no matter what, I'll repeat the same thing that I said yesterday. Heads heads I win, tails you lose, right? I would also like to point out that this is supposed to be the party of small government, right? The Georgia Revenue Department's announcement on Monday came less than a month after a pregnant woman in Texas memorably argued to police that her unborn child should count as an additional passenger upon receiving a traffic ticket for driving alone in the high occupancy, or HOV, lane. The woman didn't talk her way out of the ticket, but she said she plans to go to court and try out her argument there. More than half the states have either banned or expected to ban abortions after the Supreme Court returned the regulation of abortion to state-level. Bans like Georgia's have forced patients seeking abortions to travel hundreds of miles from home, at times placing them, their friends, their families, and abortion right organizations in legal jeopardy, as some states seek to criminalize helping people terminate pregnancies. Have you considered this? What if you're someone whose reproductive system just doesn't work well and you keep having short pregnancies? You can claim like 9 to 10 dependents each year, and it's like, and if it's like your federal taxes or refundable tax credit, mean you don't have to make the income in the first place to get it back. Nice loophole. What is it? It's not an infinite money loophole, but it's a massive money loophole. But here's the catch, BPCL. Now, you've got the state revenue department investigating you, and you've got the revenue department investigating for any possible fraud, and you've got the justice, I guess the state law enforcement investigating for any possible illegal abortions that you may or may not have had. 30,000 30,000 tax return regardless of how much you make, but the patients will have a pile of evidence that it's not her fault. Yeah, I mean, hey. I mean, I guess that's a possible scenario that could happen. In which case, oh well. The people who just miscarry for no reason, anyone can tell they're in way more danger. Well, yeah, like, but miscarriages by itself, like, are just like a natural thing, and they're very common. Like, the majority of pregnancies do end up as miscarriages. As long as you have the medical records, I guess. Anyways, this is a good meme. For some reason, Tucker Carlson is trending. Ugh. No clue why. Oh, oh, the big story is that he secretly at Jumpoyan did a story on it to rock the boat. Oh, I see. Okay, here we go. No, I don't want to hear any of this garbage. According to Newsmax, I don't know how much we're gonna give credence to this. But sure. Days after reporting on Fox News' shadow ban of former President Trump, the New York Times' Jeremy Peters told Newsmax Eric Bolling on Monday night that star host Tucker Carlson didn't vote for Trump and thinks little of his supporters. The video surfaced over the weekend of Carlson laughing it up with Trump at his Bedminster, New Jersey golf course as supporters broke out into boisterous "Let's go Brandon" cheers. Peter insists that Carlson is not a Trump fan. There are a lot of people, Eric, who snicker behind Trump's back, who said that they support him publicly and they like him and his ideas and they like him, but privately it's a different story. In private, what Carlson says about Trump is very different than what he says about Trump in public, and it benefits him to be seen having photos with Trump at the golf course and everything. Peters examined conservative media in his recent book, Insurgency. I quoted him in my book. I'm voting for Kanye West. This is in 2020. Yeah, I mean, Tucker Carlson voting for Kanye West. That's hilarious and sad. But he didn't vote for Trump as far as we know. I mean, I don't know. I wasn't there with him in the ballot box, but we know that Tucker is one of those people who benefits from having Trump audience on his side, but thinks very little of the people who make up that audience. Oh yeah, absolutely. Tucker Carlson does not give a flying F about any of the viewers whatsoever at all. At all. Anyways. Uh-oh, trouble in paradise, I guess. That's hilarious. Take that with a grain of salt. Did you hear where they buried Ivana Trump? No. Hey, yo, how's it going? Howdy, howdy. Why is Rand Paul trending? Jesus. I've been watching the Alex Jones trial. What? That's still going on? Will Ivana help Donald Trump with tax breaks from beyond the grave? The first wife's resting place in New Jersey's golf course might benefit ex-husband's long-held tax planning purpose. No way. No way. Tax code to New Jersey exempt cemetery land from all taxes, rates, and assessments in her grave as such. What? Donald Trump's wife was buried last month near the first hole of Trump National Golf Club in Bedminster, in New Jersey. Few immediately guessed her grave's location might also serve her ex-husband's long-held withheld tax planning purposes. Holy yikes. What? According to documents published by ProPublica, the Trump Family Trust previously sought to designate a nearby property in the Hackettstown, New Jersey as a non-profit cemetery company. Oh my god. But Ivana Trump, who died earlier this month at 73 after a fall at her home in New York City's Manhattan, is the first person to known to have been buried at the golf course where Donald Trump and his family spent a lot of time in the summer. Under New Jersey's tax code, cemetery companies are not only exempt from real estate taxes and assessments or personal property taxes, but also from business taxes, sales tax, Jesus, and inheritance taxes. Oh man. Wow. Wow. What a disgusting human being. Holy yikes. Can you imagine if this is the mindset that you have? Jesus. The damage stage is ending this week and started last week. Well, I hope they bankrupt him into oblivion. Grifter's gonna grift. Yep. I mean, that's his game plan. That's the his MO is to con by any means necessary, up to and including using your dead wife's body if that's necessary. So he's using his wife's corpse to designate his golf course cemetery for tax purposes. Yes. Yes. So he has 17 holes left. Next thing he will sell. Alex actually just testified? Really? And then tried to interact with Neil Hassan after the trial ended for the day and Mark had to step in. Jeez. What a gross human being. As a tax researcher, I was skeptical of rumors Trump buried his ex-wife in that sad little plot of dirt on his Bedminster, New Jersey golf course for tax breaks, so I checked the New Jersey tax code. And folks, it's a trifecta of tax avoidance, property, income, and sales tax all eliminated after opinions accusing Trump of being primarily motivated by the possibility of a tax break began popping up on social media. Send that to me via whispers. Nairu. Rand Paul, of course, says veteran toxic exposure bill puts our economy at risk. Rand Paul railed against the economic impact of a veteran toxic exposure bill on the Senate floor on Tuesday, shortly before the chamber voted down his amendment to help offset the cost by reducing foreign aid. This bill puts our economy through, though at risk, by creating presumptions of service connection for the most common ailments. What? This is why this one's not giving me the thing. Oh, 8:45, 9 a.m. Texas time. Gotcha. Oh my god. This is what this guy thinks of his ex-wife. The feed is only live during the trial. Gotcha. Okay. That is absolutely nightmare fuel. Yep. Look at this, folks. You would think a self-described billionaire would have more money to make something nice for his wife, you know? But I guess he couldn't be bothered as long as he gets those tax exemptions. Doesn't matter. What did I walk into? Yeah, Donald Trump using his wife's corpse as essentially a tax exemption. And this is the actual grave. How's it going? I like pie. That man has zero shame. Oh yeah, 100%. Speaking of people with no shame, I hope you're doing well. I'm hanging in there. Rand Paul railed against the economic impact of a veteran toxic exposure bill on the Senate floor on Tuesday, shortly before the chamber voted down his amendment to help offset the costs by reducing foreign aid. This bill puts our economy, though, at risk by creating presumptions of service connection for the most common ailments. Paul said of the $278 billion bill, which would expand benefits for veterans who are suffering illness due to toxic exposure. So basically what he's saying is that, well, I don't know, we might be spending money on ailments that are common ailments that have nothing to do with service, with service. I mean, like, the only thing that comes to mind is what a heartless piece of shit. He noted the substantial number of Americans who have conditions like hypertension and asthma, which are both included in the bill, arguing that the expanded coverage would lead to taxpayer dollars being used to treat veterans whose diagnoses were unrelated to their service. Motherfucker, they were fucking veterans to begin with. Like, these people really hate these people really hate veterans. Holy yikes. Conservatism, folks. These people really hate veterans. This bill would cost hundreds of billions of dollars at a time when the national debt is climbing over $30 trillion. Inflation has a 40-year high. These are nothing to do with that. The federal debt was created by Congress and not our vets, and those who served armed services should not be the ones to pay the cost for government mismanagement. What a disgusting piece of shit. Paul said his amendment, which failed 90-7, would create a 10-year moratorium on foreign assistance administered through the United States Agency of International Development, except for funds designated to Israel. Paul's amendment was the first of 3 GOP amendments to be voted on with a 60-vote threshold before a final vote on the bill. The other 2 amendments are from Senator Pat Toomey and Senator Marsha Blackburn. The amendments' votes are part of a deal reached on Tuesday for the bill's passage, which comes after a multi-day standoff that began when Republicans blocked the bill last week, 55-42. 25 Republicans who initially voted to advance the bill in June voted against the legislation, citing what they called a budgetary gimmick, which is all based on based on a false premise. They're lying. However, Democrats have pointed out many of the same GOP senators previously voted for the same exact bill and have attributed the sudden opposition to Democrats moving forward with a separate spending deal on climate and health and taxes. The standoff has sparked outrage from comedian Jon Stewart and the veteran community, with activists staging a sit-in in the Capitol steps since Thursday. Yep, Rand Paul doesn't want veterans to have expanded access to healthcare because he thinks that some may get healthcare, may get access to healthcare issues that were not, quote, related to service. This is the level of contempt that conservatives have for veterans and, by extension, for people, right? For the common people. That this is what happens when you have conservatives in power. You get language like this. True. I mean, the level of contempt that you must have, and if remember, this is the party that's supposed to be all about the troops and all about protecting veterans and whatnot, respecting and honoring veterans and all this other stuff. If that's how they feel about veterans, right? Imagine how they must see you. Does it have the Jon Stewart video? No, I don't think so. Let me see. Yeah, it's just virtue signaling. No, I don't see it here. Where can I find this? Oh, here we are.
Yeah, look, I didn't see Jon Stewart. He's actually quite funny. Look, he's talking about the PACT Act, which is a bill I support. It's a bill most senators support.
Oh, hello. I'm Jon Stewart. Apparently. Quite funny. And I'm awfully interested in what Theodore Cruz is about to say about the PACT Act. Go on.
But what the dispute is about is the Democrats played a budgetary trick, which is they took $400 billion in discretionary spending and they shifted it to mandatory.
One thing, what Ted Cruz is describing is inaccurate, not true. Bullshit! This is no trick. Everything in the government is either mandatory or discretionary spending, depending on which bucket they feel like putting it in. The whole place is basically a fucking shell game. And he's pretending that this is some new thing that the Democrats pulled out, stuck into the bill, and snuck it past one.
Sorry, I should have posted a Ted Cruz warning. Sorry. All right, TW folks. Ted Cruz warning.
Ted Cruz. Now, I'm not a big city, Harvard-educated lawyer. But I can read. It's always been mandatory spending so that the government can't just cut off their funding at any point. No trick, no gimmick, been there the whole fucking time.
And so it's just part of the out-of-control spending from the left.
They want to buy Hunter Biden cocaine, a crack cocaine, and they want to purchase all your pronouns. Be careful. They're coming for your pronouns. It's nonsense. There is nothing in the bill that is not related to veterans spending. And don't take my word for it. An asshole on an iPhone. Read it. It's at congress.gov. This is for veterans who suffered health effects from being exposed to burn pits and other toxins. That is it.
What the Republicans got made clear is if we leave that spending as discretionary, don't play the budgetary trick, the bill will pass with 80 or 90 votes.
I don't know how many other ways to say this, but there was no budgetary trick and it was always mandatory. And when they voted in the Senate on June 16th, they actually got 84 votes. And you know who voted for that? Ted fucking Cruz and every other one of those Republicans that switched their votes. There was no reason for them to switch the votes. The bill that passed the Senate 84-14 on June 16th has not had one word added to it by Democrats or spending fairies or anybody else. It's the same fucking bill. This is bullshit.
I didn't see what Stewart said, so I don't know.
Do you think people say
I got to get on the plane.
A plane? I wonder where that's going. Perhaps. I leave you with a quick montage of Ted Cruz praising to the heavens our nation's fighting men and women. juxtaposed with him fist bumping his Senate colleagues after removing those same veterans' benefits and health care for toxic wounds.
To our veterans, we say thank you. Thank you, thank you, thank you.
Mr. Cruz, no.
Motherfucker.
Ha! Based.
So ain't this a bitch? Yeah. Ain't this a bitch? America's heroes who fought in our wars, outside sweating their asses off, with oxygen, battling all kinds of ailments, while these motherfuckers sit in the air conditioning, walled off from any of it. They don't have to hear it. They don't have to see it. They don't have to understand that these are human beings. Do you get it yet? Do we see that these aren't heroes? These are men and women, mothers and fathers, sisters and brothers that we just let stand outside in the heat when they can't breathe. I'm going to read you something. This is beautiful. I'm going to read you something beautiful. You know what? I said a curse word and I'm sorry about that. That was my fault. Let me say something beautiful. This is a tweet from Senator Rick Scott of Florida from yesterday. It's beautiful. And I'm sorry about the cursing, and let me say something beautiful to make it up to you. I was honored to join the USO today and make care packages.
The B word.
For our brave military members in gratitude of their sacrifice and service to our nation. And there's a beautiful picture. I wish you could see it. He's standing with a little package. Did you get the package? I think it has M&Ms in it and some cookies and some moist towelettes. I don't even know, honestly, I don't even know what to say. I've been coming down here 10, 15 years. I'm used to the hypocrisy. Christina Keene will tell you from VFW. She sat in an office with Mitch McConnell and a war veteran from Kentucky, and he looked that man in the eyes and he said, we'll get it done. And he lied to him. Because Mitch McConnell yesterday flipped. I'm used to the lies. I'm used to the hypocrisy. Senator Pat Toomey won't take a meeting with the veterans groups. Sends out his chief of staff. I'm used to the cowardice. I've been here a long time. Senate's where accountability goes to die. These people don't care. They're never losing their jobs.
True.
They're never losing their health care. Pat Toomey didn't lose his job. He's walking away. God knows what kind of pot of gold he's stepping into to lobby this government to shit on more people. I'm used to all of it, but I am not used to the cruelty.
Damn.
They passed it. June 16th, they passed the PACT Act. 84-14. You don't even see those scores in the Senate anymore. They passed it. Every one of these individuals that has been fighting for years, standing on the shoulders of Vietnam veterans who have been fighting for years, standing on the shoulders of Persian Gulf War veterans fighting for years, Desert Storm veterans, to just get the health care and benefits that they earned from their service. And I don't care if they were fighting for our freedom. I don't care if they were fighting for the flag. I don't care if they were fighting because they wanted to get out of a drug treatment center or it was jail or the army. I don't give a shit. They lived up to their oath. And yesterday, they spit on it in abject cruelty. These people thought they could finally breathe. You think their struggles end because the PACT Act passes? All it means is they don't have to decide between their cancer drugs and their house. Their struggle continues.
This bill does a lot more than just give us health care.
Gives them health care, gives them benefits, lets them live.
Keeps veterans from going homeless, keeps veterans from becoming addicts, keeps veterans from committing suicide.
Pantry
Toomey's
Frog,
not
thank
gonna
you
hear
for the
that
follow.
because he won't sit down with this man. Because he is a fucking coward. You hear me? A coward. And like I say, I'm used to it. But this type of cruelty on those that we say we hold up as our most valued Americans, then what are we? Pat Toomey stood up there, Patriot Pat Toomey, excuse me, I'm sorry. I want to give him his propers. I want to make sure that I give him his propers. Patriot Pat Toomey stood on the floor and said, this is a slush fund. They're going to use $400 billion to spend on whatever they want. That's nonsense. I call bullshit. This isn't a slush fund. You know what's a slush fund? The OCO, the Overseas Contingency Operations Fund, $60 billion, $70 billion every year, on top of $500 billion, $600 billion, $700 billion of a defense budget. That's a slush fund.
True.
Unaccountable, no guardrails. Did Pat Toomey stand up and say, this is irresponsible, the guardrails? No, not one of them did. They vote for it year after year after year. You don't support the troops, you support the war machine.
True.
That's all you care about.
To send me to war.
Boy, they haven't met a war they won't sign up for, and they haven't met a veteran they won't screw over. What the fuck are we?
Maybe we're not so great. Just saying.
And now they're gonna go away. Pat Toomey says, I've got veterans groups behind me. I call bullshit. These are the veterans groups. VFW, American Legion, IAVA, Wounded Warriors, DAV, AMVETS. They're all here. This is the veterans community, Senator. They don't stand behind you. In fact, you won't let them stand in front of you. Cowards, all of them. Cowards, all of them.
Well, that's the Republican Party. That's,
now they say,
yeah.
well, this will get done maybe on the after we get back from our summer recess, maybe during the lame duck, because they're on Senate time. Do you understand? You live around here. Senate time is ridiculous. These motherfuckers live to 200. They're tortoises. They live forever, and they never lose their jobs, and they never lose their benefits, and they never lose all those things. Well, they're not on Senate time. They're on human time, cancer time. Don't you have families? Don't you have people
We're the best dang nation, yeah,
who are
at
deciding
messing
how
shit
to
up.
live their last moments? I know some of them. They've been down here advocating with us. They spent their remaining time advocating so that other soldiers didn't have to face the indignities and the depravity and the desperation that they faced. And none of them will hear it. And none of them care. Except to tweet. Boy, they'll tweet it. Can't wait to see what they come up with on Veterans Day, on Memorial Day. Well, this is the reality of it. I honestly don't even know what to say anymore, but we need your help because we're not leaving. These people cannot go away. I don't know if you know this. You know, obviously I'm not a military expert. I didn't serve in the military, but from what I understand, you're not allowed to just leave your post when the mission isn't completed. Apparently you take an oath. You swear an oath, and you can't leave. But these folks can leave because they're on Senate time. Go ahead, go home, spend time with your families, because these people can't do it anymore. So they can't leave until this gets done. Because these people will not give up, they will not give in, and they will not relent. This is an embarrassment to the Senate, to the country, to the founders, and all that they profess to hold dear. And if this is America first, then America is fucked.
Hate to break it to you, my friend. America's been effed. America's been effed. If that's how they treat, if that's the contempt, the level of contempt that conservatives look at veterans, how do you think they feel about the rest of the country? What are your odds for improving the healthcare system for everybody else? What are your odds for universal healthcare systems if they don't even give a shit about veterans? Alright, so apparently this is the vote for this PACT Act. We'll see if we can try to get this one at least.
Mr. Barrasso, Mr. Bennett, Mrs. Blackburn, Mr. Blumenthal, Mr. Blunt.
Alright, we'll do this story here. DHS officials interfered in effort to get lost Secret Service texts. Top officials at the DHS Inspector General's office interfered with efforts to recover...
Mr. Blunt.
What?
Mr. Booker, Mr. Bozeman, Mr. Braun, Mr. Burr, Ms. Cantwell, Mrs. Capito, Mr. Cardin, Mr. Carper, Mr. Casey. Mr. Cassidy. Ms. Collins, Mr. Coons.
Are they going to start now?
Ms. Cortez Masto, Mr. Cotton, Mr. Kramer, Mr. Crapo, Mr. Cruz, Mr. Daines, Ms. Duckworth, Mr. Durbin, Ms. Ernst.
I think they're just doing roll call. Alright. We'll just do this. Top officials at the DHS Inspector General Office interfere with efforts to recover erased Secret Service texts from the time of the U.S. Capitol insurrection and attempted to cover up their actions. Oof, the plot thickens, folks. The two House committees said in a letter on Monday. Taken together, the new revelation appears to show that the chief watchdog for Secret Service and DHS took deliberate steps to stop the retrieval of the texts it knew were missing and then sought to hide the fact that it decided not to pursue that evidence. Yikes. The Inspector General's office had initially sought to retrieve the lost texts from across DHS, spanning both the Secret Service as well as the former DHS Secretary Chad Wolf and his deputy Ken Cuccinelli as part of the internal review into January 6. But 6 weeks after the Inspector General office first requested the Secret Service communications from the time of the Capitol insurrection, The effort was shut down by Thomas Cate, a deputy inspector general for inspections and evaluations. The House committee said, "Use this email as a reference to our conversation where I said we no longer request phone records and text messages of the United States Secret Service related to the events of January 6th." Cate wrote in a July 21st email to a senior DHS liaison official, Jim Crumpacker, and that was obtained by Congress. The House committees also disclosed that they had learned that Cate and other senior officials manipulated a memo authored on February 4th that originally criticized the DHS for refusing to cooperate with its investigation and emphasized the need to review certain texts. Jeez. By the time that Cate and other senior officials had finished with the memo, the House committee said mentions of the erased text from the Secret Service or the DHS secretary had been removed and instead praised the agency for its response to the internal review. The memo went from a stinging rebuke that said most of the DHS components have not provided the request information to saying we received a timely and consolidated response from each component. Yikes. Appearing to acknowledge the removal of damaging findings in the memo, Cate asked the colleagues around that time, "Am I setting us up for anything by adding to what I did?" I spoke with Kirsten last week and she was okay with acknowledging DAL's efforts. The disclosure alarmed the House Oversight Committee Chair Carolyn Maloney and House Homeland Security Committee Chair Benny Thompson, who also chairs the House January 6th Committee, enough to demand the top DHS officials appear for transcribed interviews. In the 4-page letter, the two House committees again called for the recusal of the DHS Inspector General, Joseph Cuffari, and demanded communications inside the Inspector General's office about not collecting or recovering texts from the agency related to the Capitol insurrection. The deepening investigation has also revealed that Cuffari's office was notified in February of 2022 that texts from Chad Wolf and Cuccinelli could not be accessed, and that Cuccinelli had been using a personal phone, yet never told Congress. Uh-oh. Oof. Cate has a history of removing damaging findings from reports. In a DHS report on domestic violence and sexual misconduct, Cate directed staff to remove a section that found officers accused of sexual offenses were charged with generic offenses, the New York Times reported. Damn, so there's a history of this that prompted Thompson, through the House January 6th Committee, to issue a subpoena to the Secret Service for texts from the day before and the day of the Capitol insurrection as it examined how the agency intended to remove Donald Trump and Pence on January 6th. But the Secret Service provided only one text exchange to the Select Committee, The Guardian has previously reported, telling investigators that every other message had been wiped from personal after personal failed to back up data from devices when they were swapped out, which I call bullshit. Clearly, there was some type of a cover-up or attempt to hide information. Clearly. And with this new development, that suspicion seems to be growing in evidence. Folks, also, while this is going on, I would also like to remind folks, if you have a moment, hit the follow button, join us on the YouTubes, hit the subscribe button. I saw a bunch of you yesterday hit the subscribe button. We're at 195 subscribers on YouTube. That is freaking awesome. Thank you guys. And if you guys want to keep up with the channel, hit up the Discord. You get all kind of updates. I will be making an announcement tonight. Tomorrow, August 3rd, Wednesday, we will be having the one and the only, the Backosphere. Thank you for the follow left. Justified, I appreciate that. We will be having the Backosphere on for a collaboration, a collaboration stream. If you guys want to know,
Mr. Sass,
if you guys want to know who the Backosphere is, you can check them out here. You can also check out their YouTube channel, which we will go over. They do, she does fantastic work. She does fantastic work when it comes to climate journalism. So definitely take a look here. I guess they're still trying to set up or count the votes. I'm not sure. I guess we can do it actually on the meantime, right?
of all the wildfires burning in the U.S.? Can you keep track of all the wildfires burning in the U.S.? Because I can't. And what did the UN General Assembly just declare as a human right? Welcome to the Climate Recap from the Beckosphere Climate Corner, your go-to place for international and US-based climate news. I'm Becky Hogue, a science writer. Today is Tuesday, August 2nd. Let's jump right into the news you need to start your day. Let's start with some extreme weather events. Heavy rains last Wednesday led to flash floods and landslides in 21 of Iran's 31 provinces. These extreme weather events killed 53 people and damaged hundreds of structures. At least 16 people are still missing. The flooding was the deadliest water-based event to occur in the country for over a decade. Rains continued until yesterday. This was supposed to be the dry season in the Middle East right now. I think I wrongly said last week that this was the monsoon season there, but I think it's supposed to be the dry season. The area is usually in a drought, leading to a higher risk of flash floods and landslides as the ground is less stable. Meanwhile, the Mediterranean Sea is going through a heat wave just like the bordering countries. The heat wave on land started wildfires and has killed over 1,000 people.
Jesus.
This marine heat wave could ravage ecosystems and kill off several species over the next several weeks. Waters between Spain's
Yikes.
Balearic Islands and the Italian coast were up to 5 degrees Celsius warmer on Friday than that same time last year, according to Spain's AMET weather agency. The waters will continue to be 2 to 4 degrees Celsius warmer than average until mid-August. For context, the water is usually around 24 to 26 degrees Celsius around this time of year. That's pretty warm. Marine species are more sensitive to temperature changes than creatures on land, similar to how sensitive humans are to changes in blood temperature. Let's head over to the US now to talk about a few wildfires that were not on my radar. 2 wildfires broke out of North Texas on July 18th.
Are they starting to tally the votes?
Mr. Carper, aye.
It's funny because she said Mr. Blunt, aye. It could almost mean Mr. Blunt, hi. Yeah, it looks like they're taking votes. Okay.
The Texas fire chief said that the Possum Kingdom Lake fire, which had burned 80 acres or 32.4 hectares, was caused by sunlight magnified by glass bottles.
Wow.
It's disturbing that that's all it takes. But Texas has been going through a heat wave with temperatures over 100 degrees Fahrenheit or 37.8 degrees Celsius for multiple days on end. It's also been dry and windy, which is a bad combo. I think that one is fully contained. The Chalk Mountain fire that also ignited that same day, though the cause of that one is unknown, has destroyed 16 homes and damaged 5 more. I think that one is mostly contained now. Now for a new ongoing fire, we have to look to Nebraska. A wildfire sparked late Sunday, and 2 small towns and some livestock have had to evacuate.
Jesus.
Some 1,000 acres or 405 hectares have burned so far. There's also a fast-moving fire near the Oregon-California border called the McKinley Fire that broke out on Friday and has already forced 2,000 people to evacuate as it scorches over 51 acres or 20,640 hectares.
Jesus.
It was 0% contained as of Sunday. California has been in a drought for more than 2 decades, and the western U.S. is currently in the worst drought it's seen in 1,200 years.
Yep. And it's just getting worse. Like, think about it. If things continue down the path that they are, this will just be the norm. It won't be like, oh, we're in a drought phase. No, it's just gonna be.
Meanwhile, it looks like the Oak Fire near
Coons,
Yosemite
Mr.
National
Coons,
Park, which
aye.
is California's largest wildfire so far this year, will likely be contained this week, according to firefighters. And then there's the Elmo Fire in Montana, which nearly tripled in size to more
Mr.
than
Wicker,
11
Mr.
square
Wicker,
miles or 28
aye.
square kilometers. And the Moose Fire in Idaho's Salmon Chalice National Forest that has forced some local residents to evacuate. That one has grown to 67.5 square miles or 174.8 square kilometers. Related to this topic, the House of Representatives just narrowly passed a firefighting package that combines 48 bills. It includes making wildland firefighting pay comparable with other firefighters in their state and expanding proactive clearing and preventative burns by the Forest Service. This is very much needed with how many wildfires have already occurred in the country. Only one Republican voted for this bill, and it was California Representative and House Minority Leader Kevin McCarthy. We'll have to see how it goes in the Senate. That's a good segue into the climate victories. UN General Assembly member states overwhelmingly voted to adopt a historic resolution recognizing a clean, healthy environment as a human right. This resolution is not legally binding, but it can lead to future constitutional and legal changes. 169 countries are part of this assembly, which is an effective way to peer pressure each other. For example, in 2010, the assembly voted to consider sanitation and water human rights, and after, constitutional and legal changes took place relating to these rights in Costa Rica, Fiji, Mexico,
Nice.
Slovenia, Colombia, Canada, and France. In Mexico, over 1,000 rural communities gained access to clean water. In Canada, more than 130 Indigenous communities successfully fought for clean water on the basis of the vote. So we'll have to see how this new human rights vote will impact member countries. Over in the US, Hawaii just received its last shipment of coal, hopefully ever, which is refreshing to hear with coal likely to tie with record global demand this year. The record was set in 2013. But Hawaii is done with coal. Its last coal-fired power plant is scheduled to close in September. The last plant is located in Oahu, and it makes
Based.
the highest percentage of the island's power right now. It represented 18% of the state's energy in 2018. Renewable energy projects are set to take over the electricity demand, though there are bound to be a few bumps in the process. We've got one big climate fail today. The Organization for Economic Cooperation and Development released new data that revealed rich countries failing to reach the $100 billion towards climate finances they promised to provide every year starting in 2020. This money would go towards helping emerging economies transition to clean energy. We made this promise in 2009, so we've had 11 years to figure it out. We fell short by $17 billion, and previous research suggests that the US is by far the reason behind this shortfall. The organization predicts rich countries to reach the goal next year. The money so far has mostly been in the form of loans
Mr.
instead of
Whitehouse,
grants,
Mr.
which is
Whitehouse,
also not great.
aye.
Of the money that was provided, though, 42% of it went to Asian countries, which is about right for the human population ratio. 26% went to African countries, and 17% went to Latin American countries. Most money went to middle-income countries, with
Mr.
43%
Warnock,
of
Mr.
the
Warnock,
funding going towards
aye.
lower middle-income countries. Let's look back at the U.S. for one more climate victory story. Toyota and
Mr. Whitehouse,
Panasonic
it's all in the
agreed
name.
to buy
True.
lithium from Ioneer Ltd's Nevada-based lithium mining project called Rhyolite Ridge. This is the second deal Ioneer has struck in less than a month, as more companies are looking to make their clean energy projects American-made. More specifically, Toyota and Panasonic formed Prime Planet Energy and Solutions, through which the deal was formed. The mine will provide 4,000 tons of lithium carbonate annually for 5 years. Supplies are slated to begin in 2025. And that was your climate recap for Tuesday, August 2nd. If you like the work I do, please follow this podcast, give it a 5-star rating, leave a review, and consider checking out the Beccasphere Climate Corner YouTube channel. Remember to talk about the climate crisis every single day and to support your local news organizations. Bye for now.
All right, folks. If you haven't already, take 5 seconds and go support that channel. We will have her on tomorrow, 5 p.m. Eastern Time. So far, all the senators' names that have been called out have been ayes, but just a handful so far.
Mr. Kelly, aye.
While this is going on, just to touch up on, or piggyback, I guess, off the Beckettsphere's video about the wildfires. Death toll rises to 4 in California's biggest wildfire this year. The death toll from the explosive wildfire raging in Northern California has risen to 4 after 2 more bodies were found within the burn zone in the remote Klamath National Forest. Search teams discovered 2 bodies on Monday at separate residences along the State Route 96, one of the only roads in and out of the region near the state line with Oregon. 2 other victims were found inside a charred vehicle on Sunday in the driveway of a home near the community of Klamath River. A sheriff's statement on Tuesday said no one else was unaccounted for. Other details on the newly confirmed fatalities were not immediately disclosed. The fire near the California-Oregon border has burned nearly 88 square miles or 228 square kilometers, has destroyed more than 100 homes, sheds, and other buildings. It remains uncontained as of yet. No one else?
Twitter's.
Oh my god, Jesus Christ. Hold on, folks.
Supposedly, in order to make sure, so Jon Stewart is out there pushing a bill that is
I'm about to get
designed
triggered.
supposedly
This came up on my YouTube feed.
make sure that people who are in the military and who have been around toxic substances get the health care that they need. And that is supposedly what this bill is about. I say supposedly because that's what the bill is about, but the Democrats also added a massive budget gimmick that essentially adds $400 billion in spending.
Holy yikes, he fell for it. Wait, no, I'm sorry. He didn't fall for it. He's repeating the bullshit. He's repeating the conservative bullshit.
To the bill. They just added it right on top.
No.
Jon Stewart was out there pushing this.
No. There was no changes to the original bill. Ben, you have no idea what you're talking about. You have no idea how any of this works.
Bill. Because Jon Stewart doesn't know how legislation works. Jon Stewart is not a particularly sophisticated political player. I understand he's been on TV for a very long...
And neither are you, apparently. Neither are you. I would argue, if that's the case, then show me.
Long time, and then he went absent for a very long time. But Jon Stewart is essentially like any other Hollywood activist. He reads the top line of articles and never reads to about paragraph 4. Well, here's what happened with this bill. So there was a bill, and the bill included a bunch of healthcare provisions to help U.S. military veterans who had been stationed around burn pits, which are pits that are essentially dug to dispose of waste at military sites, and the smoke has been seen to cause long-term respiratory illness in many of the exposed soldiers. So there was a bill to pay for their healthcare. The problem is that what Democrats then did is Democrats took a bunch of money in the bill, and that money had been labeled as discretionary spending they were adding on top, and they shifted it over to what's called mandatory spending. Now, when they did that, which means that under all circumstances, government shutdown, whatever, under mandatory spending, the money must be spent. That didn't take the amount of money, let's say it was $400 billion. It didn't take it from discretionary to mandatory, and then the $400 billion in discretionary spending just disappeared. All that did was it freed up $400 billion in discretionary spending. So that $400 billion slot still holds. It's still there. So through a budgetary gimmick, basically Democrats took the discretionary spending. They said that we will call it mandatory. That didn't make the $400 billion that was discretionary, like in a big bag, shift over to the mandatory category. All it did was it added $400 billion in discretionary spending.
No, that's not how that works.
$400 billion.
No, you're lying. That's not how that works. Holy yikes. This guy has actually no idea how this works. This is actually super dishonest. This is actually super dishonest. I'm reading through the act itself. He's saying it like it's a fractional reserve. Yeah, no, this guy's entire career, the Daily Wire, all of this is on the premise that people won't take 5 seconds to realize what he's saying. This is Mr. Facts Over Feelies. Remember that. And of course, there's no like actual source as to where he's getting this information. He's just regurgitating what he heard. No critical thinking necessary here to just buy this. So I will do what Ben Shapiro won't. There's the bill. Go read it. Nothing in this bill says anything other than this is for veterans and veteran health care, period.
$1 billion that had already been allocated now moves into the mandatory, but there's now a big $400 billion bag of cash that is out there under this bill. So Pat Toomey, who's a Republican from Pennsylvania, he opposed the bill. And this caused Jon Stewart to rail against Pat Toomey. Because again, he doesn't care how much the government spends. Democrats don't care how much. The real question here is why Democrats did this gimmick in the first place. Why are Democrats trying to add $400 billion?
They didn't, though. That's not how this works. That never happened. I thought you were going to say, give his wife a whop for a second. That's, oh my God. All right. Hey, listen. Riddle me this. Facts and Logic. The cool kids philosopher. The intelligentsia of the right. Riddle me this. Explain why Pat Toomey voted yes on the original wording that never changed. There was no gimmick. There was no swapping of words in the original bill. Explain that one to me. Why he voted yes to the exact same bill. The exact same bill. In June. Explain that one to me. But explain it to me like I'm 5. Okay? Mr. Cool Kids philosopher?
Dollars in slush fund spending to a bill that was designed to protect the healthcare of military veterans. Like every Republican has signed on to the idea of this bill, basically, without any sort of magical budget gimmick.
There was no magical budget gimmick. The bill was the exact same bill. He's a rhino. True. I forgot. You can just explain anything away. By calling them rhinos.
Democrats add the budget gimmick, suddenly a bunch of Republicans drop off. It's not a coincidence. It's not because Republicans are desperate for a headline that says they oppose military veterans or something. It's because Democrats are screwing around the budget.
Or maybe, Ben, maybe Republicans are just pieces of shit. Maybe Republicans, and you included, Ben, you included, who is defending this. Maybe Republicans and conservatives are just pieces of shit and you don't like the mirror that's being held in front of you. Maybe at the end of the day, you're just pieces of shit. And the reality is you're uncomfortable with the idea of a mirror being held up in front of you and you being called out. Maybe that bugs you a bit.
But Jon Stewart doesn't care about that. And so he's just railing against Republicans.
Because Republicans are the ones who caused this problem.
Who fought in our wars, outside sweating their off, with oxygen.
I gotta see the comments on this.
Battling all kinds of ailments, while these sit in the air conditioning, walled off from any of it.
And Toomey doesn't care. He's not coming back. He's retired. God knows what pot of gold he steps into after this. This is corruption at its finest.
Someone needs...
Okay, it's not corruption at its finest. It's not corrupt at all. In fact,
On
corruption
this
is
vote,
when you stack a
the
bunch
yeas
of
are
unrelated
86,
spending on top.
The nays are 11. Under the previous order requiring 60 votes for the adoption of this motion to concur, the motion is agreed to.
Madam President,
The Majority
It's
Leader.
a wonderful moment, especially for all the people who have made this happen, who are observing it. Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. Now I ask unanimous consent that the Senate be in a period of morning business for debate only, and with senators permitted to speak therein for up to 10 minutes each.
Is there objection? Without objection.
Madam President, now I'm about to lock in an agreement that will allow the Senate to pass the resolution of ratification for the Finnish and Swedish applications to join NATO.
Yeah, don't care. Yeah, eat shit, Ben Shapiro. And he's going to have to somehow do another 180, right? He's going to have to do another 180 and explain why, again, the same Republicans are now voting yes again. Right? He's going to have to explain and rationalize why, A, the Republicans voted yes, and then all of a sudden there was a magical budgetary gimmick that never happened, and now they voted no. But now, when called out, and rightfully so, had to switch their votes. Again, same bill, same writing. He's going to have to explain that and rationalize that, or just simply do what the classic conservative logic train, which is just ignore it. He's not going to talk about this anymore, probably. If he's smart, he's just going to hope that the conservative brain will just forget about it, right?
Top of a bill to protect military veterans. So Pat Toomey, for his part, he slapped back at Jon Stewart and basically said he's a pseudo-celebrity idiot.
This is the oldest trick in Washington. People take a sympathetic group of Americans, and it could be children with an illness, it could be victims of crime, it could be veterans who've been exposed to toxic chemicals, craft a bill to address their problems, and then sneak in something completely unrelated.
What? Like
that
what?
they know could never pass
What?
on its own, and dare Republicans to do anything about
What? The bill's right here. Like Jon Stewart said, I can freaking read. I can freaking read, okay? There's nothing here that is anything but a bill that is exactly for the purpose that it is stated for. Nothing, there's no magic here, there's no gimmick, there's no budgetary trick, nothing. This is the exact same bill on June 16th. So explain that one, Ben Shapiro. Great stream so far, I must say. Yeah, the person who's been racking up quite the amount of bans from Tina, too. Jesus. Interesting. They banned me and I didn't even say anything. I'm gonna press X to doubt on that one. You don't just get banned for saying nothing. You don't just get banned for saying nothing. Tina chat is verified and my handle isn't verified. Okay, that means you can't chat. That doesn't explain the ban, right? And furthermore, that's kind of strange. Because I don't think she does that. Unless she changed. I followed and got banned. I should probably go to subscribe to those others. Yeah, go subscribe to Tina Skidadier. I don't know who Nabil is, but anyways. Oh, that's how you lefties operate? Who's you lefties? That's very presumptuous. You think that's how all left-leaning people operate? Banning me for not even saying anything? Really? I don't know. It's kind of hard to believe that, but that's how you lefties operate. That's pretty presumptuous. Pretty presumptuous. I mean, you just lied right now. You said that's how you lefties operate. You made a blanket statement saying you lefties, assuming that that's how the primary directive of lefties, that's how they operate. You just literally lied to me in front of my face.
About it because they know they'll unleash their allies in the media and maybe a pseudo celebrity to make up false accusations to try to get us to just swallow what shouldn't be there. What I'm trying to do
Only the
is
Sith
change
deal
the
in
government
absolutes.
accounting methodology that is
That's a good meme.
designed to allow our Democratic colleagues to go on an unrelated $400 billion spending spree that has nothing to do with veterans and that won't be in the veteran space.
Okay, Toomey is, of course, exactly correct about this.
No, he's
But
not.
the media and the Democrats.
Toomey is exactly a piece of shit, just like the rest of the Republicans. Like this is like, I'm so glad that like the internet exists because like we have a timetable. When did this garbage come out? Yesterday, August 1st, right? August 1st. And the premise of it was because, well, there's some budgetary trick. Okay. Well, first of all, they didn't really explain that, nor did they show the evidence for that. It was the exact same writing on the bill. I mean, again, you can read the bill. I posted the link. And then the same Republicans voted yes. Then they voted no. Then they blamed the Democrats for some budget gimmick that never happened. And now they all voted yes again for the same bill. So explain that one to me. Like, this is clown logic, right? This is clown logic.
Democrats are interested in two things. One, trying to portray Republicans as evil and terrible.
Because they are. You don't have to try. You don't have to try. Okay? They do it themselves. Is Ben Shapiro a Nazi in your opinion? He is a far, I think he's pretty far right. He's like a conservative. He assists the far right. Whether he himself is, I do not know. But he definitely advances the goals of the far right. So he's a Nazi? That's not what I said. Are you putting words in my mouth? Why are you putting words in my mouth? He's a capo. Yeah, he's like a capo. Like he basically assists the far right. That's what he does.
If you're fighting the Inflation Reduction Act, that must mean that you're in favor of inflation. If you're fighting this bill because you don't like the unrelated spending, it must be because you hate veterans. So that is game.
Yes, because that's the Republicans. Yes. Isn't far right considered a Nazi? No. A Nazi is a Nazi. Are you okay? Do you not know how words work? Do you not know how words work? Are you okay? Do you need a dictionary? Who's a Nazi in your opinion? A Nazi is a Nazi. So, all Nazis are far right, but not all far right people are Nazis. Didn't he work at Breitbart, who actively targets minorities until Breitbart started targeting his community? I don't know. Maybe. I don't know.
Game number one. And then game number two is that they actually like the spending, right? They love the spending. They want more spending. So
yeah, but who do you consider a Nazi on the far right? I consider a Nazi a Nazi. I don't understand what the question is. Like, if you start talking about like anti-Semitic tropes and start talking about how you're giving me the spiel of the Jewish question, you might be a Nazi. Name someone? Nick Fuentes. That's a Nazi. You want me to name someone? Nick Fuentes. Nick Fuentes is a fucking Nazi. Next question. What is this? What is the relevance here? Nick Fuentes is a Nazi. An early morning post from Breitbart mocked departing editor Ben Shapiro, who resigned amid fallout from an alleged incident between reporter Michelle Fields and Donald Trump campaign manager Corey Lewandowski. Huh. Interesting. I didn't know that. Send it to me, Left Justified. What did he say that makes him a Nazi? Are you okay? Do you not know who Nick Fuentes is? Who talks constantly, who makes constantly anti-Semitic tropes? What? Who's constantly pushing white supremacy? Are you okay? Have you listened to Nick Fuentes? This must be a joke. This must be a joke.
The media
I heard
are
Hitler
focused
was a
in right
Nazi.
now
How is Hitler a Nazi?
on the magic of Jon Stewart. I mean, amazingly enough, John Carl was asking Jon Stewart if he wants to run for president or any other office based on this. Democrats are so upset with Joe Biden.
Is this a Groyper chatter? Probably. Probably. Is Alex Jones a Nazi? I don't know. He's like a far-right person. He's incredibly conspiratorial. But I don't know if he's like a Nazi himself. He's like a far-right conspiracy theorist. That's what he is. Okay? He gets a little too comfortable sometimes with the whole globalist thing.
Biden, that they're now talking about dragging out geriatric comedians who used to be relevant when I was a teenager to try and run for president. Here's John Carl trying to get Jon Stewart to commit to running for president.
We got some precedent now.
What?
There's a guy.
What does this have to do with the veterans
who's
bill?
a comedian
Like,
who had a-
holy shit. This guy is like all over the place. What does this have to do with Jon Stewart and the veterans bill?
popular
Jon
show.
Stewart is 100% correct. You can read the bill. You can read the bill. Jon Stewart is 100% correct. Ben Shapiro is going to have to eat his words here.
who is now a president of Ukraine. Some people think he's a very good president. Is there any chance you run for office? I mean, you know, any office at all?
There's a chance that when I go down, I'm going to come back down there to Washington.
Yeah.
And I'm going to join my brothers and sisters on the Capitol steps who have been sleeping out on fire watch. Rosie Torres of Burn Pits 360, Tim Jensen of Grunt Style, and anyone else who wants to go down there and join them on the Capitol steps. And I will join them, and we will stay there until the United States government does the right thing by the men and women who fought to protect it.
So that's not a no, by the way, right? That's not him saying that he's not going to run for office. Politico put out a piece about 4 weeks ago in which they suggested that Tucker Carlson, if he runs for president, which is unlikely, then Jon Stewart should run for president. There's a piece by Juliana Glover, the CEO of Ridgely
What does this have
Walsh,
to do
a
with
public affairs
anything?
advisory firm. So in Politico, she was saying that Jon Stewart should run for president because, of course, this is the way that Democrats like to do politics. The way Democrats like to do politics, apparently, is to trot out a bunch of slogans without any actual backing. And then if you oppose the slogan...
Remember, folks, when it comes to conservatives, every accusation is a confession. When it comes to conservatives, every accusation is a confession. What do Republicans run on? Bullshit slogans with nothing behind them? Oof. Yikes.
Then this means that you are a bad person. And so
Yes.
Jon Stewart is sort of their ideal candidate.
Yes, if you actively torpedo a bill that would provide health care to veterans, yes, you are a bad person. Yes, you're a piece of shit. Yes, the Republicans are pieces of shit. Next question.
Candidate. And this raises, in general, the sort of way that the Democrats have been doing politics for quite a while. The fact that Jon Stewart is sort of a beloved figure on the left demonstrates how corrupt our politics is.
What? What an insane comment. So just to be clear, Jon Stewart isn't like some fucking bastion of like left politics, but he has his good moments, and usually he's pretty on point when it comes to like the politics. But to then juxtapose that and say, "Oh, well, this is why it's all corrupt" or whatever, Jesus.
Well, what's kind of amazing is that our politics has all basically become Jon Stewart writ large. So you remember Jon Stewart in the early 2000s, he had a show on Comedy Central, it was a very popular show, in which essentially his editors were the show. His editors...
What? I still remember Gingrich federal term limits on Congress, never talked about it again after the voting was done. Yeah, he's gonna have to explain this one. Ben Shapiro's gonna have to explain this one here.
They would play a clip, and he would make a funny face into the camera, and everybody would laugh like trained seals. And then he would smirk, and people would laugh some more, and then they'd play the next clip. That was essentially the Comedy Central show.
That's not how that was, but okay.
Well, there was a point during his career, it was a very famous point during his career, when he went on Crossfire. Crossfire was a show on CNN for those who are less than 20 years old.
Yes, and he destroyed Tucker Carlson, yes.
Crossfire was a show on CNN in which Tucker Carlson, in his much younger iteration, faced off with Paul Begala, and they would debate issues. This is when people like Tucker Carlson were still allowed on CNN. And it was kind of an interesting show. Right? It was basically a Republican and a Democrat discussing the issues in a sort of fascinating way. And Jon Stewart decided this was really bad. So he went on Crossfire with Carlson and Begala, and then he chided them. He said, "You're what's wrong with politics."
Yes, and he destroyed
what that
him.
sounded like.
I made a special effort to come on the show today because I have privately amongst my friends and also in occasional newspapers and television shows mentioned this show as being bad. And I felt that wasn't fair, and I should come here and tell you that it's not so much that it's bad as it's hurting America. So I wanted to come here today and say, here's just what I wanted to tell you guys. Yeah. Stop. Stop hurting America.
Okay, so it was hurting America for people to discuss the issues. Instead, what you needed was a comedian like Jon Stewart to scoff at headlines. And this is how you end up with the politics, where Jon Stewart goes out there and suggests that Republicans want to kill military veterans because Democrats...
Yes, because every delay in the funding that was supposed to go to this bill, essentially, it is a lot. Their veteran lives depend on this passing. Yes. This is not an exaggeration.
Democrats want to shell out $400 billion in extra spending under the table. It's that kind of politics that hurts America. Right? The open debate kind of stuff that used to be de rigueur in American politics, that sort of stuff is gone. There are no shows on TV anymore in which a Republican and a Democrat discuss the issues. The only thing I've heard of like that is, frankly, my Sunday special, where I'll have Democrats on and we'll have actual talks about this stuff.
Interesting. Why don't you debate, say, someone like Sam Cedar?
But it's a rarity in American politics right now. Jon Stewart helped kill that. That is the politics that was built by our mainstream media.
No, Jon Stewart single-handedly does not have that power. I'm sorry. This is some like This is some garbage thinking. Like, Jon Stewart single-handedly did this? Wow. Damn.
Like Jon Stewart, who, shockingly, John Carl, now wants to run for president. How's this for a title? Ben Shapiro Show subscriber destroys like button with clicks and logic.
Clicks and logic. What? There's nothing being destroyed here except your... The only thing that's being destroyed right now is my brain. Okay? Listen, I am less smarter now for watching this video. Thanks, Ben. And thanks, YouTube, for even having the audacity to suggest this to me. Holy yikes. You know what? I am starting to remember that username. I think you're lying to me. I think I have seen you in Tina's chat. Now that I'm thinking about it. Well. So I guess that's good news. It looks like the PACT Act did pass. People like Ben Shapiro can eat shit. I'm still here. My mom called me and I had her tell about everything that's happening today. Sheesh. Well, in your absence, the PACT Act did pass. She voted for Lucas Coons because I texted her and told her that Bernie endorsed him. Nice. Based. Wow, Republicans look so effing weak now. I mean, they're all spineless cowards. So yes, but furthermore, we just went over a video with Ben Shapiro basically saying like, oh, the Republicans are right, and Pat Toomey was correct. It was a $400 billion $400 billion slush fund and all this other nonsense as expected with conservatives. And just literally as we're watching this video, all the same spineless cowards voted yes again. Jon Stewart made them march their asses back in there and do it over. Yeah, do the right thing. If it wasn't for, people shining light on this issue, it wouldn't have gotten done. Okay. It is 7 Central Time. So we will see if I'm looking for a link to results. Polls are closing right now. Yes. Please, BPCL. Did I give you, shoot, if you find it, send it to me via Whispers. If you find it, send it to me via Whispers. I'm definitely interested in this, constitutional amendment. I mean, like, what's pretty cool about this is that, like, wouldn't this give a good blueprint? If we know that, like, a state constitution can have an amendment to protect the right to bodily autonomy, that should be kind of par for the course, right? Everywhere. The right to bodily autonomy. If you find that, send it to me. Put something in chat so I don't have to search for the Whisper link. What? Found it? Okay, send it to me. Where did you send it? Oh, you whispered the bot? Oh no. No. No, don't whisper the bot. He doesn't answer. That's funny. Wait, you whispered me? What? Yeah, that's me. I don't think you did, my friend. Here, I'll message you, howdy. There we are. Uh... Here we go. I whispered you different link months ago and got confused. It's neck and neck so far. How do I see this? Okay, so polls have... No. Oh, I was joking because it was 00. Don't load other pages. Because you'll get kicked out. Okay. Updated 5 minutes ago. County by county analysis. Douglas County is where KU is, so that will be a big source of no votes. Yep. One could only help. Everywhere in the top east part of the map is the Kansas City area, which is much smaller than Kansas City, Missouri, but is the other big blue part of Kansas. Gotcha. probably going to go pretty slow, so it might be a good idea to open up other tabs for Arizona, Michigan, and Missouri while we wait. We'll see how long I can stay. We're approaching hour 3 now. We'll see. Arizona, Michigan, and Missouri. All right. We bought a lot of time of not being able to transmit the link. True. Arizona, polls close at 10 Eastern time. Whew. Where are we? No! Boo. Alright, I saw a good video, a good meme video. Let's see if I can find it.
Welcome to the...
Michigan has closed, but it's only the Republican primary for governor. I have no idea who any of these people are. Missouri polls have closed and actually started to report results. Lucas Coons with a massive lead so far. It looks like Valentin has a lead, and I still have no idea who that is. Schmidt is winning in the R's, which was the expected. Graytons might come in third, which will be very embarrassing for him. Ha! Alright, this is a good meme video, okay? Oh, shoot. Ha. Well, he's not getting anywhere near. All right, this is for some memes, okay?
So as some of you may have heard, I am no longer with Hills Rising, and I know many of you want to know what happened and why there was a sudden departure, so I'm here to explain. Now, a year ago, when I joined Rising, I promised the viewers that
Been the biggest
though I was
circus
working on a
Missouri's ever thrown.
corporately owned media show, I wasn't being censored or held back in any way, and I wouldn't be there if I was. Prior to joining Rising, I was doing my own show independently. I was independently funded, and one of the benefits of being independent is that there are no corporate overlords or establishment types meddling with the content.
You're on YouTube. What? Okay.
And of course, we have to dance around YouTube's community guidelines, but beyond that, the actual editorial calls are not being made by some establishment hack. Now, obviously, viewers were very concerned when I joined Rising that this would change. That instead of being my normal self of questioning the establishment, calling them out, thinking outside the orthodoxy, and criticizing our leaders, that I would instead morph into some shill or stay quiet when I would normally speak out. So I made numerous assurances that this was not happening at Rising, that I was free to say what I wanted, and I was free to talk about what I wanted, and that was true. My radars over the past year were all me. I wrote every single one. I didn't have to consult with anyone about what the topic would be or what I would say about that topic. No one edited the pieces. They were 100% mine. No one ever told me what to say or what not to say at Rising. And I know that I made some of my colleagues uncomfortable with some of the things that I would say. And when I did, never once did a manager or producer pull me aside to tell me to tone it down. I was completely free to say whatever I wanted at Rising, and I did. I said whatever I wanted, most notably openly criticizing the pandemic response, vaccine mandates, and Fauci. I still remember the first time back in August of 2021.
Yes, we know.
When I stated that the vaccines don't stop the spread, and I was met with fierce resistance to that idea. Do you remember this?
Yeah, I mean, I just don't understand. We know now that the vaccine doesn't stop the spread, so I could understand maybe doing a vaccine mandate if there was.
It certainly stops the spread. And
it doesn't stop the spread. We know it doesn't. The science is clear that it's not.
The vaccine does provide immunity. Yes.
Not stopping any spread.
My open criticisms of the narrative, decisions around the pandemic, and Fauci brought in millions of views for Rising.
Yeah, I bet it did.
Out of all the hosts,
Free to
COVID
be
and the
mask off,
pandemic
true.
response was my topic. All of the viewers knew this. So when I found out Sunday night that Fauci was going to be on the show, I was excited. This was a moment I had waited for and viewers had waited for. I had questions that I wanted to ask him, like, does he still support mandates for these non-sterilizing vaccines? With mRNAs not succeeding in ending the pandemic, why is he still pushing for them?
What? This is all just
many
wrong.
more. I had a lot of questions. But then Sunday night, I got a call from the producers telling me that when they submitted for the interview a couple of weeks earlier, Fauci's team had asked who the hosts were going to be, and they didn't list my name. They told them Batya and Robbie would be the hosts. They said originally the interview was going to be earlier than when I typically show up, and so they didn't think to include me. Now, I dispute this because there have been numerous occasions when a guest who they know I would be particularly interested in talking with is scheduled early, and then they ask me if I want to join to be a part of that interview. Sometimes I say yes, sometimes I say no, but I think obviously interviewing Fauci of all people, it would have been one of those times to ask me. So I told the producers that they needed to go back to Fauci's team and tell them I'm in the interview, and if he won't agree to do it, then we make a segment about that. We say Fauci wouldn't face us, that it needed to be all of us or none of us, especially since the interview had been moved to later in the day when I'm there. So I made it clear that anything other than this would cause the viewers to lose trust in Rising, and trust is what matters most. The viewers had flocked to Rising for this content, and to let them down like this would just break their trust completely. So they seemed to understand this Sunday night. Now, the next morning, as I'm ready to join the show and I'm getting ready to do my radar and possibly interview Fauci, I got a phone call from the executive producer telling me that they had made the final decision to not approach Fauci's team but to instead move forward with the interview without me. They wanted me to come on the show, record a couple of segments, then ask me to leave so that they could interview Fauci. And I expressed that this was a giant mistake, that the viewers would no longer trust the show, that I had told viewers I wouldn't be censored or held back, and how can I go back to the viewers after this and say with a straight face,
Yeah, good start.
I'm not being censored or limited. How am I supposed to do that? I mean, there were times in the past when viewers would accuse the show of holding me back or censoring me or limiting me, and it wasn't really the case. It was other circumstances that made it to where I wasn't in the segment. But in this particular case, I wasn't the
Yeah, they probably decided, like, okay, listen, this person, no.
situation. So what was I supposed to say to viewers after this? How could I say, yeah, you know, it's corporate media, but trust me, guys, I'm not being censored or held back. I mean, up until this point, it was true, but after this, I wouldn't be able to say that. And that would make me a liar, and it would put my reputation at risk because I made promises to the viewers. And so, because of all of this, I am no longer with Rising. Now, I want to say there are a lot of really good people who work at Rising. The team is amazing, and I had a really great time over this past year being on that show. I don't regret a single moment of it, and I also want that show to be successful because there are so many great people working there. And I hope for the sake of those great people working there, who are now worried about their jobs, that those who are making the editorial decisions will go forward making better choices, understanding that viewers' trust is the most important thing. It's the only thing. And the only way to gain and maintain that trust is to keep your integrity. And sometimes, in order to keep your integrity, you have to make a tough choice. So that's it. Going forward, I will be posting Monday through Thursday on my channels on Rockfin.
Okay.
YouTube.
Oh, no. Chill on your own time, all right? They probably decided, let's keep our high-profile guest instead of doing a segment for our egotistical employee. True. Oh, updated. I mean, this is, this is the race that I want to see here. I did not know you were a Coons fan. No, you said that this guy was the progressive, right? The guy that was endorsed by Bernie? I live here and I literally don't know who she is. Me neither. I'm just going off your assessment that this guy was endorsed by Bernie, so I'm going to assume that he's on the progressive side, so I'm gonna take his side. Eric Schmidt is probably getting the Republican nomination. He's our current Attorney General. His highlights are supporting the abortion ban and suing schools for masks. Yeah, well, that's a standard Republican procedure, yeah.
Herschel Walker said he would.
All right, this one caught my eye.
Andrew Yang's Forward Party has been making some moves behind the scenes, and we have some reporting on that to share with you guys. So let me walk you through it, and we'll talk about it as we go here. So this is in The Guardian. Centrists to launch Forward, new third U.S. political party. Dozens of former Democrats and Republicans to form new party in bid to appeal to voters unhappy with America's two-party system. Now, Andrew Yang has recently sort of fully embraced this notion of like, I'm a centrist and my political party is centrist. That's quite different from the lane that he used to have. He used to have a position of like, I'm running as sort of a leftist-ish Democrat in the Democratic primary in the last election. And, you know, my evidence for that is universal basic income. That was like the main thing he ran on when he ran for president.
Yeah, but that's
and the
not
other
even
thing
a
is, on
leftist
some
thing.
issues, he did outflank Bernie to his left.
What?
For example, drug decriminalization. I think he went
What?
further than just saying we should legalize marijuana. I think he talked about how we should decriminalize all drugs, basically. Treat it like a health issue. So, you know, old school Andrew Yang was more UBI focused and was focused on some issues that
Oh,
would
how
outflank
far we have fallen. How far we have fallen.
the other Democrats to the left. There was some where he was always sort of not great on like the issue of Israel and some foreign policy stuff, etc. But this new thing he's doing is nowhere near the lane he used to have. So I want to be clear about that. Here's what they say in The Guardian. Dozens of former Republican and Democratic officials will announce a new national political third party to appeal to millions of voters they say are dismayed with what they see as America's dysfunctional two-party system. The new party, called Forward, will initially be co-chaired by former Democratic presidential candidate Andrew Yang and Christine Todd Whitman, the former Republican governor of New Jersey. They hope the party will become a viable alternative to Republican and Democratic parties that dominate U.S. politics.
Nope.
Founding members told Reuters. Party
Yeah,
leaders
nope.
will hold a series of events in 24 cities this autumn to roll out its platform and attract support. They will host an official launch in Houston on September 24th and the party's first national convention in a major U.S. city next summer. The new party is being formed by a merger of three political groups that have emerged in recent years as a reaction to America's increasingly polarized and gridlocked political system. The leaders cited a Gallup poll last year showing a record 2/3 of Americans believe.
I believe they hope that. Yeah, no, this is misplaced. Yeah, I don't know. It just doesn't seem. It just doesn't seem right. Something's up.
A third party is needed. The merger involves the Renew America movement, formed in 2021 by dozens of former officials in the Republican administrations of Ronald Reagan, George H.W. Bush, George W. Bush, and Donald Trump. What? The Forward Party, founded by Yang, who ran for Democratic presidential nomination in 2020 but left the party in 2021 and became an independent, and the
We're the centrist party where we where our platform is going to involve mostly Republican garbage. Nice. Cool. Excellent.
Serve America movement, a group of Democrats, Republicans, and independents founded by former Republican Congressman David Jolly. Look, you can't say we are the outsiders who are going to represent the majority of the American people because these two parties don't. And oh, by the way, now we're packing the party full of, and I'll repeat it, former officials in the Republican administrations of Ronald Reagan, George H.W. Bush, George W. Bush, and Donald Trump. So the same elitists.
Yeah, this is a good meme. Oh man, this is a good meme.
Who drove this country into a ditch are the same people who are going to portray themselves as outsiders and get us out of the ditch? Nah, man. Nah, what the fuck is this? What is this? All right, let's continue. 2 pillars of the new party's platform are to reinvigorate a fair, flourishing economy. How? And to give Americans more choices in elections, more confidence in a government that works, and more say in our future. All right, so very concerning. Very concerning what we see here. So let's dig a little deeper. They released their own op-ed. This is in the Washington Post. Opinion: most third parties have failed. Here's why ours won't. So it's by David Jolly, Christine Todd Whitman, and Andrew Yang. So two former
pillows.
Well, I guess, I don't know, Christine Todd Whitman, is she currently a Republican and part of the Forward Party? Because you're allowed to be in the Forward Party and also be registered in one of the 2 parties, because I think they want to run as an independent. Unless they've changed that, I'm not sure. But 2 former Republicans and Andrew Yang here. So, and I highlighted the part that stuck out to me. The two major parties have hollowed out the sensible center of our political system, even though that's where most voters want to see them move. All right, let me pause there. So this idea of like, look, we have increased polarization. There's people on the far right and the far left, and they're dominating our politics, and that's the problem. So you got to get to the reasonable middle. That is what we're trying to do here. That notion is fundamentally, factually incorrect. The problem with Washington is not like, oh, the extremes are too extreme. The problem with Washington is the corruption. In fact, sometimes there's too much bipartisanship because both parties agree on deregulating Wall Street. Both parties agree on endless war. Both parties agree on illegal NSA spying, for example.
I don't know. There is some degree of truth to that.
So you just flat out misdiagnosed the problem. And this notion that like, well, independents are all in the middle. That's not true at all. There are people who are independents who might lean far right or far left, but just neither one of the parties really speaks to their preferences. So they would always, in other words, they have strong ideological leanings, but they're independent. So it's not like I'm an independent means I'm right smack dab in the middle of the Democratic and the Republican parties. Again, misdiagnosing a number of things here. A new party must stake out the space in between, again, based on a total misunderstanding of American politics. On every issue facing this nation, from the controversial to the mundane, we can find a reasonable approach most Americans agree on. I love this. Now, here's where they dish out straw mans relentlessly. On guns, for instance, most Americans don't agree with calls from the far left to confiscate all guns and repeal the Second Amendment. What prominent figure on the left has called for that?
What?
And by the way, even if you can name me one, which I don't know if they can even name one, is that a sentiment shared by a large number of people on the left?
No.
In my experience, people on the left are either for some basic gun reforms like banning assault weapons, universal background checks, ban on high-capacity magazines, things of that nature. Either that's their position, or there's even some pro-gun lefties. So let's repeal the Second Amendment. Nobody's running on repealing the Second Amendment. Certainly nobody in Congress wants to repeal the entire Second Amendment and confiscate all guns. That is nothing but a giant straw man.
Yeah,
and it's a lazy argument because this is so easily checkable.
Yeah, like there's no there is no mass movement of left-leaning people that are going out there saying, we should just remove all guns. Like that's okay.
They continue and say, but they're also rightfully worried about the far right's insistence on eliminating gun laws. Look, I'm not a fan of the right, okay? But even I know this is strawmanning their position. Because in my experience, are there some goofy people on the far right who might say, like, yeah, you have a right to a nuke? Sure, okay? But
like Tim
the
Pool?
overwhelming majority of people on the right, their position is just hands off, no new gun laws. Like, I don't even see people on the right calling for the repeal of the ban on fully automatic weapons. We have that right now in this country. There's a ban on fully automatic weapons. You can't get a fully automatic machine gun. I don't even see people on the right talking about, well, we got to get rid of that.
That's not true. That's not really true. Yeah, recreational nukes.
So it's just sort of like, don't do anything. That's the position on the right. So for you to say they disagree with eliminating, they're worried. Hold on, let me read it. But they're also rightfully worried by the far right's insistence on eliminating gun laws. Nobody's even saying that, bro. Oh my God. On climate change, most Americans don't agree with calls from the far left to completely upend our economy and way of life. Nobody's ever said that. but they also reject the far right's denial that there is even a problem. That part is true about the far right. On abortion, most Americans don't agree with the far left's extreme views on late-term abortions, but they also are alarmed by the far right's quest to make a woman's choice a criminal offense. Look, the so-called far left, when it comes to abortion, yes, there's a handful of people who say yes, abortion up until the last minute. In terms of the policy pushed by the Democratic Party and virtually all the elected officials in government on the Democratic side, they say, we just support Roe versus Wade. Our position is Roe versus Wade. So what is Roe versus Wade? Roe versus Wade is the moderate position. Roe versus Wade said, in the first trimester, you have a right to an abortion. In the second trimester, you can do some health regulations around abortion, but it still has to be allowed. And then the third trimester, you're allowed to ban abortion if you want in each individual state. That's Roe versus Wade. That's the position of Democrats. And again, he's just strawmanning it. So, man, what are you doing? What is this? Now, look, I was reading all this, and I was like, this is crazy. Let me go directly to the Forward Party website and look at their platform. Because I remember when Andrew Yang announced this, one of the things he said was like, well, universal basic income is going to be one of the main things. It's like, he doesn't have many hard red lines that he draws. Like, you have to support this to be part of the Forward Party. But it seemed to me like universal basic income was one of a few things that, no, you have to support this. Well, let's go take a look. Okay, this is from the Forward Party website. More unites us than divides us. Forward priorities. And by the way, this is under the platform portion, okay? Americans can fix any problem. That is why Forward is approaching a platform differently. The rigid top-down, one-size-fits-all platforms of the outdated political parties are drifting toward the fringes, making solutions impossible. We stand for doing, not dividing. That means rejecting the far left and the far right and pursuing common ground. Three priorities will unite our broad coalition and serve as the springboard for policymaking by Forward Party candidates and leaders at all levels. Plank number 1, free people. Revitalize a culture that celebrates difference and individual choice, rejects hate, and removes barriers so that each of us can rise to our full potential. Okay, that literally means nothing. That means nothing. That's a bunch of vague, flowery nonsense with no real substance and meat and potatoes in there. Thriving communities reinvigorate a fair, flourishing economy and open society where everyone can live a good life and is safe in the places where we learn, work, and live.
Yeah, no shit. Everyone.
I don't know what that means. None of that is a specific policy proposal. Vibrant democracy. Reform our republic to give Americans more choices in elections, more confidence in a government that works, and more say in our future. On that one, I guess you can interpret it as, more choices in our elections, maybe ranked choice voting or something. I don't know. Ending gerrymandering, something to that effect. So I'll scroll down a little bit more here. So yes, we have, here are the planks. Ranked choice voting. Adopt ranked choice voting systems for all elections. I totally agree with that. Nonpartisan primaries. Adopt nonpartisan primary systems that more people...
Yeah, I see it.
I'm not going to be able to see the rest of that quote. That's a shame. Okay. Anyway, nonpartisan primaries, independent redistricting commissions. Fair enough. Agree with that.
It's still 70-30
That's all I see on this primary
almost.
portion of the Forward Party platform. How we're different. Diverse thinking isn't just welcome, it's required. Bottom up, not top down. No purity tests. More listening, less talking. Work together, not against. Grace and tolerance. Our core principles. Free people, thriving communities, vibrant democracy. Look, this is all that's here. There's nothing else here. But I hope you noticed something. This should have popped out to you immediately. Now all of a sudden, UBI is gone. I thought one of the main things to be in the Forward Party, you have to be for UBI. I'm going to endorse candidates who support UBI. That's what I thought Andrew Yang was doing. Now, UBI is gonzo.
Wow, really? No way. Maybe he just didn't believe in any of this to begin with. Just saying. I'm cautiously optimistic. Yeah.
That was one of the things where I supported Yang the most on that specific policy. Now it's gone. So what's going on here? Look, you got to call it for what it is. What Andrew Yang is doing is something that's already been done a million times over.
Too radical.
A million times. This is what, the new Democrat coalition says they are. This is what Blue Dog Democrats say they are. There's a number of movements and organizations and coalitions that already have this lane that Andrew Yang is staking out. Where the centrist, reasonable ones, the Problem Solvers Caucus does the same shit. But where are they actually? Right smack dab in the middle of corrupt Republicans and corrupt Democrats. So they are also deeply corrupt. And they're on a spectrum in Washington, which is way out of touch with the spectrum of the actual American people, which leads to my next point. This is from Sludge, and this is an old thing, too. This is from May 21st, 2021. GOP megadonors fund Andrew Yang super PAC. Almost all of the PAC's money comes from finance industry billionaires who have given millions to national GOP groups. So wait, let me get this straight. You're starting a new third party, and one of your ideas is not, we can't take billionaire money, we can't take corporate PAC money. You're starting a new third party, and you are diving headfirst into the corruption. No, but if you want to give people an alternative, it has to be non-corrupt, or why should they trust you? Why should they believe you? Why should they think you're looking out for them? If you're taking money from billionaires and corporations, you're going to serve the billionaires and the corporations just like every other corrupt politician. So what are you doing, Andrew? What are you doing? It's truly, truly astonishing. It's truly astonishing. So it looks like he's gone full, like, I'm an enlightened centrist, but I don't even mean that in the good sense of the term enlightened centrist, because there are some aspects of enlightened centrism that I think make sense. But this is like, I'm going to be in the center of corrupt Washington politics. We're still going to take corporate money. We're still going to take billionaire money. We're going to drop any specific policy substance that the Forward Party's about. Now, look, eventually, they will have, and they say that they're going to do it. They will have a platform. They will have more specifics.
here in Alaska.
And
Howdy.
we'll evaluate that when it comes out. But as of right now, why would anybody in their right mind sign up for something like this? When they're telling you, it's vague,
dead on
we're
arrival.
doing platitudes, there are no specifics, and we're just going to say, are both sides crazy? We should be in the middle of them.
Yeah, like, I think that I could see a world where UBI... How's it going, Alio? I could see a world where UBI may have a path, but, I mean, like, why not just do the things, right? If you're gonna give people UBI, why don't you just do universal healthcare? Why don't you just do universal college or universal education?
Well, if both sides are crazy and you're in the middle of the crazy, you're also crazy. You need an alternative that is non-crazy and, more importantly, non-corrupt, which clearly is not the direction that they're going. So, man, it's a shame. Again, old school Andrew Yang positioned himself as a leftist-ish Democrat. Drug decriminalization, universal basic income.
I don't know about left-ish. So the Senate voted to help veterans. Yep, they did.
In many ways, he looked at Bernie's platform and agreed with aspects of it. But as time went by, he's gone more and more, let's be more centrist. And let's misdiagnose the political problems in this country and create a group that is just copying a bunch of other groups, like the Problem Solvers Caucus, the New Democrat Coalition, Third Way Politics, New Democrat. I already said New Democrat. We see what you're doing, and we know what this is. And ultimately, if you're not putting those substantive things front and center, like ranked choice voting, I'm with you. I'm with you on that. But if you're not prioritizing substantive things, then nobody should support you. I don't see anything here about unions. I don't see anything here about Medicare for all. I don't see anything here about ending wars. I don't see anything here about ending corruption. Clearly, you're not in favor of ending corruption. So this is just vague, flowery, platitudinal nonsense now. And it brings me no joy in saying this, because I like Andrew Yang. He's a good dude. I think he has good intentions. But ultimately, he's lost his way. If you want to see me and Crystal Ball interview legends like Noam Chomsky...
No, I don't. Right before calling for veterans to be produced by expanding NATO. What? I don't know what that means. He's not good, he's just not mean. Who? Yang? Yeah, I don't think Yang is good. Alright, folks, unfortunately, I do gotta get going. It is already 8:40, for me. Yeah, I gotta get going. I gotta get, some food. Sorry that, I can't stay longer. I'm sure that we're gonna talk about this tomorrow, but we'll see. It looks promising. Gotta keep that optimism, yeah? Alright, folks. As always, if you guys enjoy the content, don't forget to hit the follow button. It does help us out. And you get 5 free emotes. Don't forget to also head on over to the YouTubes. Hit the subscribe button. And spread the word far and wide that this is the chillest place to be for dudes in politics. Monday through Thursday, 5 p.m. Eastern Time. Tomorrow, mark your calendars. We are talking with the Becca Sphere. She's going to be on with us 5 p.m. Eastern Time. The Forward Party needs a better name. No, it just needs to not exist. The Forward Party is not good. The Forward Party is not good. Well, on that note, folks, if you have a second, head on over to twitch.tv/AlioShare. Also, earlier, Dan Simpson. Thank you so much for the raid. I appreciate that. Go check them out. Twitch.tv/Dan Simpson. I really appreciate that. Also, I would like to give a personal shout out to Bleeplop Ben. She reached out in DMs the other day, and it was very kind. It was very kind of her, asking how I was doing, because I had gotten sick with COVID just like a week, 2 weeks ago, something like that, recently. And she took time to reach out to me and ask how I was doing. So I just want to give a quick shout out to Bleeplop Ben, and appreciate that. Thank you so much. That being said, folks, again, if you enjoy the content, don't forget to hit the follow button. Don't forget to do the subscribes on the YouTubes. Spread the word far and wide. As always, please stay safe. Please take care of each other. I love you all, and I hope to see you guys in the next one. See ya. $67-32. Keep the hope up, folks. $67-32. Pay attention, folks. Hang tight, folks. We're heading out in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. See ya.